All right, welcome everyone. Appreciate your accommodation coming in today. Another meeting. I can't believe we just had one of these, it seems like yesterday, and it's been 2 months. It's just flying. Okay, this is the engineer committee meeting. If James, once you call us to order, I'll take roll call.
Call to order the engineer committee meeting.
Thank you, sir. For roll call, James Collins,
Here.
Dr. Asher,
Here.
Eddie Jett,
Here.
Alton Heathcote.
I am here.
All right, Philip Lim,
Here.
Jason Carter.
Here.
Then our observer, Melanie Doss. All right, we have quorum, Mr. Collins. The only thing we have on the agenda right now, and that's, of course, we have new business, but the only thing we have listed on the agenda is design deliverables presentation. Miss Jennifer Lloyd, she's the head of technical training and production support at TDOT. And she's going to be discussing 3D modeling and among other items as well. And she's sitting here to my left. Thank you, Miss Lloyd, for joining us. And I'll just hand it over to you and let you run from there.
Thank you. And I don't know who's got the clicker to go through my slides. So just a little bit about myself before we get up there. TDOT's going through a lot of changes. So just in the amount of time that I sent you the first presentation from today when I'm doing the presentation, my title's changed again. So I was the roadway design director for years. And then we had a new division I was really excited about, and it was training and technology, which is what he said. And then now I'm back to, instead of roadway design director, I'm just the design director. So I'm over my old group that I had in the new training and technology group. So, but I've been with TDOT almost 30 years now. So, born and bred here in Tennessee.
Where's Tennessee?
Smith County, Brush Creek, Gordonsville High School class. We had 52 in my class. So big school. I know it well. So, but been with TDOT since I graduated Tennessee Tech. Yeah, and been in roadway design pretty much my whole career. So that's a little bit about me. And so what is this? I just wanted, Jason's been asking me to talk about it. I talk about it all the time. I will bore you all to death. I'm so sorry. I just apologize ahead of time, but I could talk to you about it all day. But what this is just a CAD program that TDOT uses. So it's the program that all of our engineers, non-engineers, everybody uses. Is what we use to produce a set of plans. So since I started in '96, we've used some type of Bentley program. So we can go on to the next slide. And I just wanted to show you so we've always used a Bentley product, but what we had been using was a 2D product. So we really didn't have that ability to go in and look at those graphics. I want to take these off. It's easier for me to look on my computer. We didn't have the ability to go into that software and see that 3D element. So why did we change? Well, one thing is Bentley, they like to make money, just to be honest with you, just like AutoCAD does. And that's their competitor. AutoCAD's more of a vertical element. Bentley pretty much has the roadway. I think the last time I looked, and I have to look every year because we have to go before, everyone and say, this is why we're going to stick with this group. They pretty much hold the 46, I think, out of 50 states, or maybe 48 out of 50 states that use the Bentley product. So we usually go with them, or always go with them. And they stopped supporting SS2, which is the product that we were using in 2022. By that, does that mean we have to quit using the product? No. But what it does mean is something goes wrong with it, they say, sorry, we're not going to help you. So we have about 500. with TDOT. And of course, if we use it, that means all the consultants that do work with us use it as well. There are a couple states that decided, hey, we're going to go to AutoCAD, but then one of them's already switched back. So it's just not, and the amount of money, we don't be so much. So it's just, you can put it all in one place, one file, and with the SS2, you actually had to use a second GeoPack to go along with it. All right, we can go on to the next one. So funny, this is actually a quote from me, and I realized it after I put it in there, so I'm not pompous. I will let you all know that, but there's a couple slides on here that you're going to think that I am, but I'm not. This was something that I have a couple consultants will talk through this. But everybody says, well, why do we want to do that? Well, there's 100 reasons why you want to use a 3D product, but for me, this was the main thing. It just gives you a well thought out plan. When you talk about waste and what happens that delays a project, and you see us on the news and you hear everybody complaining, the first thing that you're going to hear everybody say is there was a utility bust. So we get out there in the field and we didn't realize that there was a pipe buried, or maybe not so much that it was already out there, but the three utilities on the project, well, they don't a lot of times give us their information quick enough. Or when then they do give it to us and we don't have the right software and the capability to look at those on a set of plans, because they're laid on a piece of paper just like what you have in front of you. So you cannot realize, oh, they're going to conflict when we get out there until you start building and start looking at them. And then the contractor's got to stop everything they're doing and step up, go backwards. And so when you have this 3D software, you can look at them, you can move it around, and it'll actually go through there, and you can do a utility confliction, and it will let you know immediately you got a problem here, 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 and you can go back and fix it. So
That's assuming the utilities have all that data and information.
they don't.
Yeah.
No, they don't. But what they do have is what they can give us, and then we can do it. So it's going to put a lot of liability and work on TDOT to get it into the system, or the contractor, but it's just going to have to be done. We know that, and you'll see this as we go through it, but we've always said, sometimes we feel like we get the utility plans on a napkin when they went to McDonald's at lunch that day in a Sharpie, is the best way to say it. But if we can get just enough information from them, we can pull it in and get it almost practically in an Excel file or a PDF, and can pull it in to our system. So we'll go to the next slide. So I'm just kind of look at that best you can, because I've broke it up into smaller pieces. So I'm on a group that we'll talk about later, a national federal highway group. And the one thing that we've been telling everybody to do is, what's the first thing that you want to present to your DOT when you're wanting to go this route to get buy-in, and it's a roadmap. So this is our roadmap that we came up with. And was it right the first time? No. Did we go back in and we add things to it? Yes. So we'll go on to the next slide, and I just wanted to break it up a little bit, and it's color coded. Sorry for what we did. So these are the different categories of what we're going kind of to go through a few things today. So some are the data and standards categories, the tools and technologies that we're going to use, what are our policies and processes, and our peoples and skills that we have to train everybody to get through. So we'll go on to the next slide. So when did we start? So our whole roadmap is 10 years long, and that sounds like a long time, but it's pretty much what most states have gone through. Where is Tennessee? I used to do a presentation that was called Somewhere in the Middle, but now we're kind of up in the 75% or higher compared to other states, which is really great. And for me, I'm very happy about that. So what did we start in the very beginning? Well, the first thing we did was just have a web page. We wanted everybody to know that it's coming and what we're planning to do. Just get that word out there. And then the first thing you have to do is just get everybody involved. So we started developing that training material. So when we did that, we reached out to all the different divisions, within TDOT that are the major users of our product. And we got SMEs on board. So we have 4 regions in TDOT. We had 3 from each region come in. And we asked them, okay, you've been using this other product for 20 years. What did you like about the manuals that we had, and what do you wish that you had had in those manuals? Because our old manuals, some of them were done by Bentley, some were added on to by TDOT personnel, but what would you like in a brand new manual? So that was how we did those. They go anywhere from, hey, I'm new and I just need to know a little bit to get me by, and dilly daddle in there, and then to, hey, I need to know, SUDA, your underground utilities, or I'm in construction. So they're a wide range, they're disciplined, or for each discipline. And those SMEs told us what we needed, and we got those in there, and then they actually went through the manual and tested it pretty much. And then we went out to the different divisions and they came in and learned those. And what we gained from that was, well, there's still not enough for just the roadway designers. They're the ones that use them the most, and we had a second manual from that. So once that happened, we got that like we liked it. In our old building, we actually had a training room on the lower level, so we had people come in and do those. And then we have these things called workspaces, and that's where Bentley keeps alive and makes their money, as they release a workspace. So that'll have something that wasn't going right from all the users and all the DOTs. That's just, we wish you would work on that, and they'll fix that, and they'll release a workspace, and we'll work on that. And then the other thing new that we decided to do that we had not done in the past is within those training manuals. If you all went to a training today, but you did not use that material for 6 months, would you remember what you'd done? No. So we decided this time to have those trainings for each chapter in its little short sections. So you could go out there to that section and say, oh, okay, I want to watch a 2-minute video, and this is how I do that. So I say we, not me. I had a very short CAD section at the time. I don't have no CAD section now when we reorganize, but I do have 2 consultants that help me, and I'll talk a little bit more about them as we go along. So we have those guides available, so we can go to the next one. No, you didn't. I had to squint and see up there to see if it mentioned this one. Okay, so then as we go a little bit through those, we really wanted to make sure that we kept everybody informed. So one thing that we wanted to do was each year at ACEC TDOT partnering meeting, I made sure that we spoke to the group and let them know what was coming. So we let everybody know we're going to have a TDOT users group. So this was for internal and external. So all of our consultants, and mostly we hit the survey consultants and the design consultants first, because they're the ones that are going to be initiating the projects. So we had Teams meeting where they let us know they wanted to be part of our team. And for the most part, if they were already on board with us as a consultant doing work with TDOT, we already had their email addresses anyway. But we enlisted them as part of that team, and we would meet with them at that time. I think it was maybe survey 1 month and design 1 month. But anyway, we would have demos that we would do. But at any time, they could say, hey, could you do a demo on this? And consultants would do that. But it also served as a message board, so anybody could go out there and ask a question, and either my 2 consultants could answer it, or if another consultant knew the answer, they could. So it was just an ongoing question and answer session. And I will think that of all the things that we did, that was probably the best. Jason's shaking his head yes, that I'm getting the best results from that for both our internal and external partners. So that was something that we also did. Let's see, I'll skip that one. And so we also had a checklist. And that's just what needs to be in those documents when you put those in there. So here's a big one when we get over to 2023. So we've been in this process for 5 years. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a few minutes, but we did start talking to the contractors because we felt like that was really, really important. All right, so we'll go to the next slide. Okay. So we're getting towards the end, and I'm going to get into a little bit more detail. Like I said, we'll several of these. So as TDOT Bentley continues to release workspaces, we continue to have to update our material. I always say I should probably, with those two purple squares at the top, put a big circle around those with arrows, because it is a continuation of things that we have to update. So TDOT doesn't always update their manuals every time there's a release or change with Bentley, because we would never get finished. So that's one thing that we've always got to do, is continue to update our training material and our guidance. So we do continue to do that. And let's see, one big thing that we're doing is a migration to ProjectWise. And ProjectWise, what that is a place that allows all of our internal staff and all of our external staff has one place that they can go. We have to give you access, but it is also part of Bentley product, but you can all go and find your project, all your plans and everything you need in one spot. So that's been something that's really good that's come out of this, and it really helps with that model because it is kind of large. And we're hoping to end in 2028. So I'll walk you through that and move on to the next slide. All right. So here's a little bit more about some of the things that I'm involved with. So I am a committee on design member of ASHTO for quite some time now. I don't even know. And several years ago, I think it was 2014, they had a new group that they formed of a subcommittee, the Joint Technical Committee on Electronic Engineering Standards. At that time, TDOT was green as we could be. We hadn't even started talking about, we'd started talking about the 3D model. We'd done absolutely nothing at all, but we were thinking about it. We knew it was going to be time. At that time, Jeff Jones was my boss, and he said, I really would like for you to get on this committee. I said, okay, I have nothing to do. Let me put in for that. So I put in for that committee. And at that time, I was actually got named the chair of it. And so that was wonderful, because I got to see 2 other states that had already been using the model. They were 5 years ahead of us. And we always say this, and I mean this with utmost respect, I got to see what they didn't do right. So by seeing what they didn't do right, we got to do it right the first time. So a lot of that was doing the training. I was just so surprised to hear one of our northern states that do really well with this say we only trained our designers. He puts out a software and doesn't train all the end users, so there's so many small things like that that they just did not do. Or they just did not have all the different disciplines, a training guide. So there's a lot of small things like that that they didn't do. And then more recently, Utah, and if you're in the game at all with designing and talking about this, Utah's always at the top of the mark. But I'm hearing recently that the contractors weren't really excited about some of the things that they had done. So one thing they went back and did was something called boots on the ground. So they had their consultants go out in the field with the contractor after it was let. So that's something we did on our first pilot project that we're going to talk about. So being on these committees have been wonderful. And not only that, the committee has done some things that now TDOT can use. So I've gotten to do that. And recently, last year, I've been the chair of it because the other guy retired. So I've been doing that, but like there's some things that they've done, like legal document guidance, which just kind of walks you through as a state what all you need to do up front. And even with that, we're already updating, like coming to you. That's one thing we tell everybody to do, come early. If we're ever gonna,
How did you coordinate the training? Is it train the trainer? Or
No.
Is that the K-9? How is that?
We would love to do train the trainer, but it never works, because what happens is somebody leaves that's the trainer. So for our training, we have a training room up at the Pope building, or we had, and it seated 15 people. So at that time, we just had the regions come in and do that. And at that time, I had a training group that could actually train them that were TDOT people. Now I have the consultants that can do that. And as we get a little bit further on, we'll talk about not what we're doing now that I don't have that group. But yeah, we do have all these different guides out there of who to meet, who to talk to, talking to your IT people early, talking to you guys early and all that stuff, that we can do that. Being the chair of that committee put me on another group. That's the joint subcommittee on data standardization, which is just trying to make people think about the life cycle of the 3D model. Are you getting it to asset management, and are they getting that back to your DOT to use that? So that's another group that I'm part of. And the brand new one that I'm so excited about is FHWA has a digital delivery stakeholder group. So they took a bunch of us that are on these other committees and asked, what do you need? And we need you to realize what everybody else is doing in the United States, put it in a hat so that we're all not doing it 15 different ways, and have it in one spot. So that's what that group's doing. And then we can go to the next one. And then these are a couple of things that are coming out of those committees that I've been really happy to be a part of, or other people at TDOT have been a part of. So this one's going on now. The top one is about providing technical guidance for open data standards. And that's something that we'll talk about in our pilot project. The open data standards means I'm using open roads, but if you're a contractor and I give you my set of plans and you don't want to use open roads and don't know how, you don't have to. You can use something else. And that's something that's very important, is the contractors, most of them don't use our Bentley product. So that's something this pilot project that we worked on is going to talk about. And our GIS team at TDOT is also has a pooled fund project that they participated in. So that all goes through our asset management and making sure that everything talks to each other. And that's kind of goes through the quality management one. All right, so let's go to the next one. All right, so here's some more of our external communications that I mentioned earlier. I talked about, a partner with WSP Consultants and Arcadis. And I'll talk a little bit more about what they're doing, but updating the survey and design consultants via email and ACEC and TDOT partnering conference, making sure they all knew that we were making this switch ahead of time. We talked about utilities a little bit earlier, and one of you mentioned something, but knowing that they do not have this type of software, we have 5, different scenarios of how those handoffs look like. We're going to give it to you like this, and you're going to give it back to us as a PDF, or you're going to give it back to us as an Excel file, knowing we're not going to get back what we want and how we need it, but letting them know that we're never going to force them to have this type of software. Having those bi-monthly meetings that I mentioned. This was my favorite. The first time I talked at the Tennessee Road Builders, they had that big meeting in July. There was 500 of them. I said, how many of you know what ORD stands for, the Open Road Designer Connect? And 2 people raised their hand and they were from TDOT. And I said, you don't count. How many of the rest of you know? So that's where I started, if that tells you anything. It didn't get any better the next year I went either. So I started going to all of our regions have like a spring and a fall meeting. So I started going and nagging them then. It's coming, guys, it's coming. So then we sent out a survey to those contractors and just trying to figure out, every year we was just nagging them a little bit. And then we sent that survey out and said, well, what do you use? What do you use on your machines? What do you know about ORD? Do you know anything about it? But last year was much better. We met with Kiewit, UBank, Delta, Rogers Group, SciTech, which I had never heard of, and Bone Contractors. So we actually went and met in person with some of them. Some of them were Teams meetings. It was all over the place. Some of them were top notch, had used ORD, knew how to bring it into their machines. One of them had actually hired a person that had been on one of the committees with me, and they had actually used all of our TDOT item bases that we use and had it all in there It was amazing what they had done and this guy had done. And then some of the rest of them were just, they didn't even know what it was. We demoed it for them. So they actually got kind of excited on what we were going to be able to give them, what that product was and what they could actually use it for. So that went well, and having those contractors come in and talk to us. And then we just asked them, what do you want? You know, what would you like to see us do? And the thing that we got out of them the most was just, we'd like some workshops. We would like for y'all to come in and have not just material for us to read to see how we can pull your information in, but you know, what if we set up a piece of y'all's equipment out here? We get a contractor to come in, bring it out to one of the regions, and we show you how to pull it in. They said that'd be great. So that's what we're going to try to do. And then the boots on the ground after award is what we're actually doing in our pilot project. So we'll go to the next one. All right, so right now I have 2 contracts with WSP and Arcadis. Those expire in October. I am going to go on and try to get 2 more contracts set up. So I don't know who I'll get. So I did put in their contracts that if they don't get it the next time, they have to spend 2 months with the 2 new ones I get and teach them what all they've been doing. So one thing that they've been helping with is with the new surveys that have come in. We started those in 2021 with the 3D model. Arcadis has been reviewing those for all the state TDOT surveying people and making sure those okay. So they've been looking at whether TDOT or consultant did the survey. They've been reviewing those. We have pilot projects that we've reviewed for both regions. So I just kind of split those up between WSP and Arcadis. We meet with Bentley monthly to discuss tickets that we have of things that aren't going well and aren't right and that we wish that they would fix. And then we find that other states have also turned in those same tickets and they've still not fixed them, but they do fix some of those. So those are kind of fun. You were asked me about training. So on-site workshops. So this has kind of been a revolving door. We will ask people in the beginning, and we offered for 5 years, if you need training, let me know. If you need training, let me know. It was really crickets. They all went to the training that we had, but now they're all really starting to use it more, or they're getting new people in. So in the last 3 months, we've gone to Jackson. We've sat with the design team down there and done one-on-one training with that group. Monday through Wednesday of this week, we were out at Region 3 here with our survey group doing one-on-one training. And we've done it at Region 1 in Knoxville. So they reach out to us, and that's kind of what we do. We haven't had consultants. They're pretty much kind of on their own. We've not been doing that with them. All of our manuals and everything that we have is available to all the consultants. Let's see. We do have exclusive work because with Geotech and Bridge, they have different types of open road software, but we do work with them. And we have workflows for transition. So we're kind of in that stage now where we're pressuring our TDOT folks. You have to start transitioning your projects. You know, we have projects that we made everybody start surveying from 2021 on, but they still had some of these kind of sitting out there. And eventually you got to take that, you know, take that jump, and you've got to start transitioning those over so that we don't have MicroStation Select Series 2 projects out there for 10 years. So we're kind of pushing that right there. And then we, like I mentioned earlier, we had that team site. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So this is a little bit newer because we're finally getting to that stage where we're having some projects that are going to go out in ORD to the contractor. So we have a digital delivery team. That is statewide. We have probably 70 people in it. We've just started having, I think we just had our 3rd meeting. So those are all different disciplines across the state. We meet every other month, and the participants control those meetings. So what that means is at the first meeting, we threw up a mini meter and we said, what do you want to know? So they all put in questions, and that's what made the next 2 meetings. So one was, what are other states doing? That was their number 1 question. And then a lot of the little questions was just things that we could answer. And then they wanted demos on, et cetera. So what are other states meetings? What are other states doing was number 1. So Pennsylvania in Georgia are two members on one of the groups I was on, that I'm on. So they came in and did a demo of what they're doing. So they got to see where other states were and what they're doing. But that's been really good because it makes them all feel involved. They get their answers to what they're doing, and it's not so much geared towards just one discipline. So those have been really great, and those are just TDOT people. One-on-one meeting with the regional operations groups, that's construction. We're having those because, like I said, they're at the end of the product, so they do not feel like they have been involved as much. We go out and meet with them, and we can talk to them about the pilot project. And then Arcadis is working with Region 2. They have a new pilot project as well, and that's how to review a set of plans without using that software that's so hard. So that any of you, if you ever wanted to go in and look at a set of plans, that you could go and use it with this new software. And that's a Bentley Infrastructure Cloud. So here's our pilot project. I don't know if any of you, next one, I'm sorry. That's my fault. I don't know if any of you are from Sumner County area.
No, Southern County, well, we work there. Not on transportation projects.
But okay, okay. So this project just got let in August. So, let's see. It's a two-phase project. So phase one got let. You can see up there in the right corner. So that's State Route 52 west of Portland to State Route 109 north of Portland. So why did we choose this project? Because I gave up trying to find a project that was going to be let in Open Roads Design or 3D model. We weren't there yet. So I just picked one out of there and said, somebody find me a good project that's close to my house. This is it. So that's how we came up with it. It has a lot of different things on it. Drainage problems or not problems, but a lot of drainage and utility. So that's the kind that you want. So you can go in there and do some utility deconfliction. All right, next one. So this one was fun because not only was it not an ORD, that means it was in GeoPat, which is a completely different software. So we worked with our Region 3 staff and got all that information, and my consultants went through there and turned it into a 3D model. How did we do this? To let the contractors know, we put a special provision when we let it, so they all knew what was going to happen, which was very little. That was, hey, this is going to be our first 3D model pilot project. You're going to have to meet with TDOT people after it's let. We don't know how many times, we don't know for how long, and we don't know a whole lot, except you're going to meet with us. We're going to go through the model, and we're going to.
One of the contractors that you talked about that they visited that already probably.
No, this was not. This was really odd that they got it. So, they have never had a Tennessee project before, ever. So when we, when we chose this project and we met with all those other people, they didn't even know we were going to choose a pilot project. So because that was last year. When we chose this one, we put the special provision in there, and I don't even remember how many contractors bid on it, but they all bid $25,000. That was the magic number all across the board. They all put $25,000. So we thought that was kind of funny. I don't know if they all called each other or what happened, but we're worth $25,000 to meet with us. So I thought that was kind of funny. But it was awarded to Scotty's, and I had never heard of them, and they are out of Kentucky. So they got it, and then go on to the next one. Well, I'm hearing good things because, of course, I stalked them on internet to see what everybody said, but I was impressed with them. So we met with them, and they had a pilot project in Kentucky was the first thing they told me. And the first thing they said that impressed them about TDOT was that we met with them. They said Kentucky just kind of gave them the information and said, here's our pilot project for a 3D model, and that was it. But we sit down and met with them and said, okay, we're wanting to do this and learn from it. and how to do this going forward. Because you are our first one, but we want to have a pilot project in all of our other regions. We want to have pilot projects that were consultant designed, and we want to have pilot projects that are in-house designed, because we want to make sure that the contractors feel comfortable with what TDOT's giving them, and that we feel comfortable with what we're giving them. So that's the pilot project wording. And to make sure that as we go through this process, that everybody understands we've took this time to do this. So that's part of it. And they kind of let us know what their challenges have been in the past, and that's what these bullets are. And some of them is just how to transfer the data, how to get it back and forth with Kentucky. And some of the models being incomplete. And this did not surprise us at all. This is also a problem in a 2D model. When you get to an intersection, there are holes. If you don't know what that means and you don't know engineering, you get to an intersection and it doesn't meet. It's just, your ground does not meet, and that happens all the time. So that was one of the problems. Too many programs are being used. The contractor's got 3 programs they're using. The design team had a sub-consultant, and the utilities, and they've got three programs. So too many things going on. How can we all get this down to one program on the one side and one program post-letting? Needed finished surface and subgrade models for grading. That was the one thing we heard, not from just this contractor, but from every contractor that we interviewed back last fall. So that's one thing that we really worked on, trying to make sure that we're going to get completed through our processes, that we get those in there. And then the other big one, providing the model during the bid phase. So that's something at TDOT we've always done anyway. We're supposed to be doing. So we've got to work on that, is that we provide all of that information to the contractor during the bid phase to be able to look at. That helps them. They've got such a limited amount of time to try to get a bid together. If they have all that information, it can go on and plug it in there. It helps them get a much more accurate bid to us, project-wise, or finance-wise, I guess I should say. And I had so much more on this, but I told Jason I could keep y'all here to noon, and I know y'all don't want to do that. But so what we've been doing, and I won't pull up that other things that I have, but right now we've had 2 progress meetings with them. And what we've been doing is going back and forth and looking at each other's models, see where we had those holes and see if we can figure out what those are. Looking at the culverts and looking at the bridges and just seeing what doesn't match. So far we've been pretty excited, just for the fact that it wasn't done as a model to begin with, and we've used those different softwares. We've not had any problems with them pulling the information into their machinery or anything. So everything's been compatible. We've not had any issue. What we have done, I wanted the consultants to come up with a form with a list of questions of any problem, questions. What problem did you have with this? What software did you use? Just something that we can use going forward with every contractor, so that we can keep a record of that. That way, when we go out to our contractors and have maybe some one-on-one training or some of those little classes that we were talking about, we can show them those lists and say, okay, this is what we've done and this is what we found. And then those contractors will understand you do not have to buy the software. You can say it 100 times, but they're not going to believe it until we can show them some documentation of, hey, this is how we put it in the system. And that's something we're finding nationwide, that we're having contractors, they're having a hard time believing that we're not trying to force them to buy Bentley products, and that's not what we're doing. They can pull that into Trimble. You got Land XML. There's so many different things. Let's see. Only a couple more, I promise. So next slide. We are getting noticed, the things that Tennessee is doing. WSP's been presenting at 2 different big conferences. So IHEAP is a really big conference. So they took our roadmap and some of the things that we're doing on the pilot project, and they presented there and at Benwick. And then I presented at Alabama Transportation Conference. in 2023. So that was just one of those, hey, Tennessee's done this much. I know the Alabama guys really well, so that's why they invited me. So I went down there, but it was more of a, look what we've done, take it. And that's what we've all been trying to tell everybody to do in the AASHTO committee I'm on. Take what all the other states have done. Take it, use it. Don't reinvent it. It's ridiculous. We spent so much time and money. Take it and use it for your own. And then the last one that I know is what everybody wants to know that actually does plans. Go to the next one, please. What is the current process? It's the same as the proposed process. Right now, when we submit a set of plans, we have a PDF that is sealed, and it is the engineering document of record, and we have a zip file with the CAD files in it that's MicroStation and GeoPack. And so the proposed process is kind of in between at this point. We still have the PDF that's sealed as the engineering document of records. And you either have the CAD files with MicroStation and GeoPack, or you have the Open Road Designer Connect. So if you go to your next slide, the question I'm always asked, will we ever have the model as the sealed document of record? Maybe. Will I still be at TDOT when that happens? Probably not. But as you've probably just heard from what all that we're doing, I want to make sure that we've done it right. The contractor feels right about it, and we've got enough sets of plans out there before we even think about the electronic being, or the 3D model being the electronic record. And we may never do that. There's a lot of states that aren't doing that. It's really hard for me to make people, or for me to understand when people tell me, well, the 2D CAD file doesn't match the PDF. Yeah, it has to, because it came from it. I've had that argument 100 times. So it's really the same for the 3D model matching the plan set, but because it all comes from one. But I think people still like to have the paper set of plans out in the field. So I don't know that we'll ever get to that. That'll be a higher up than me, TDOT, and the contractors, But who knows, you would have never told me 20 years ago that we would have quit printing the plans for the contractors to bid on, but we quit doing that. So if they want them printed, they do it themselves.
The model is provided as a legal document, how is it sealed?
That is something that I don't know how to do, but somebody will figure it out. The other states have figured it out, so we're gonna do it exactly like they do.
And it's very new people who talk about that.
Yeah.
They had that model in such a way that any changes with like somebody contractor, even if it's a period after a sentence, then the engineer is digitally or electronically notified.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Alan Millie, who's one of my best friends from Pennsylvania. We'll do exactly what Alan does. That's the good thing about not being first, I think, sometimes. Alan Millie from there, Utah, Florida, and I think they're the three that's for sure in Iowa. They're already doing it that way, so we know it's out there. It's kind of like now how we do the title sheet, and we just do the one sheet sealing it instead of doing it. It's from the other states. So when we get to that point, that's how we would do it. And we would have to definitely come back down here and present to you all and make sure that it's okay. So we know that, but this is where we are now. So it's just a different way of what we're submitting, and it's.
Submission at the beginning.
Can I get you on the record there? No, go ahead. I wanted to hear from you. Yeah. I think we can catch some of it, but just want to make sure.
Yeah, you mentioned something about.
You have to press it again.
He's not close to the.
Oh, I gotcha.
Mentioned utilities as a major reason to go along with the names. It's TDOT. And their additional work done. Since these utilities and addition has been much paid from the utility owners, it was set the most top. Their stuff is not that accurate.
Are you wanting to get his question?
Yeah, it's okay. You can keep talking, it's fine.
Okay.
We're just making sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you asked about, Sue and utilities and underground
Yes.
utilities. Yeah,
Yes.
actually, we just, we partnered with, Parsons on an on-call.
Mhm.
And they have a new utility manual that's coming out, and it kind of walks you through the process of when you should do subsurface utility. So I have training under me, so we're actually doing that training this next month. So we're going to go to the regions and we're talking to everybody about that. And we had just had a utility meeting Monday with all the regions, and we talked about this and that we're going to have to start getting that into the project earlier, into the mandate estimate, and we're gonna, go out there and start doing that utility subsurface surveying earlier so that we have it in the plans and that we make sure we get that in as part of the detailed U completion, and paying the consultants to do that more. And I probably can't say this on record, but look for an advertisement.
I think back to the point that's on the screen, that ultimately is this board's major concern.
Yeah.
And I don't know that anybody in this room can answer that question, but I imagine when we get to that point, that's probably going to require legislative action, I would think.
It's possible, it hasn't before. I don't think we've come down here. Somehow I've been involved with CAB my entire career, and we've always come down here and we've shown you what it's going to look like and what it's going to take. But this is kind of big, so I think it would have to be some rewording. And I don't know that we will go to that electronic, being the record. There's so much change at TDOT. There's so many things going on that's really not been something that we've talked about. Is this going to happen? Because right now we're just trying to get it out the door. And everybody asked me a time frame. I said, it's going to be 3 more years before every project that we have even goes out the door as a 3D model. That we're that far, or that's where we are in the process.
Was there a legislative action required when we went from sealing the Mylars to the way we sign electronically now?
No, we didn't. We came to you guys, but
Yeah.
it didn't have to be rewritten, or we didn't have to go to the legislator.
I think the answer to that is yes. If I'm not mistaken, there was legislative activity that allowed electronic
Oh,
seals.
yeah. Yeah, it was already there, though. I don't think, we didn't have to have anything rewritten, I don't think. did we?
I think this board at some point in time had already taken that action.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Did you all have any more questions for Ms. Lloyd?
I had one. So regarding utility stuff, as Dr. Ash was talking about, is there any dream of possibly trying to require the utilities to provide their information to you in a 3D model format?
It's my dream, but I don't think that we could ever make them do it. We're always talking about, working with them and trying to get things quicker, whether that's monetary or what we can do to do that. But I think it's just going to be a lot more work that we're trying to do on our end. It's not that much of a procedure to get the information from them in an Excel file, honestly, or a PDF, and if it's accurate, and turn it into a 3D model and us do the decompletion. It's just getting that time and getting the information right.
It's been done now.
Yeah.
With that, all soon companies, and you can actually put it into.
Yeah.
It would just be really helpful if the utility companies would start transitioning. I mean, I know that most of them have 3D or mapping that they do. Most of it's 2D mapping, but if they could transition to a 3D mapping process, it would make it so much better for everybody, and them included, if they would do that.
Yeah.
Good luck convincing him.
Yeah, we gave them all the information that even for a smaller company, there's some price ranges out there that for just like one license, but I mean, if they don't have MicroStation now, we know they're definitely probably not going to switch over to something like this.
All right, any other questions? And then we've got a few more minutes left. Yes, sir.
Hey, Jennifer, thanks for the thing that I work for the utility company, and you talk about outreach program to the contractor. Was there any plan for TDOT to have outreach program to the utility, because we do a lot of Chapter 86 project prior move? Thank you.
Yeah, I think just from the training that I talked about earlier that we're having, I know that for the Sioux, some of the utilities companies are coming to that. And as far as this goes, I'm hoping that when we have the contractors come in and we talk about it, that we can also have some for the utilities come in and talk about that as well and just show them what we're doing. And although we have given our utility people the 5 different forms of how we can get information to them and get it back, I still feel like we probably need to have our utilities people come in and see those forms and us talk to them about it too. Mhm.
All right, anybody else? Okay, Miss Lloyd, thank you for coming out. I appreciate that.
Thank y'all.
All right. Well, lot happening. TDOT's been hard at work over there at the tower, so lot more to look forward to. All right, so we've got about 5 more minutes left for this committee meeting. Do we have any new business?
Yes.
Go ahead, Alton.
One of the things that we as a group have kind of discussed is how do we do a better job of expediting things at our level so that when we get issues like complaints, how do we process them in a quicker manner at the full board meeting? And one of the things that we have talked about is we would probably, when we used to have the committee members the day before or the afternoon before the board meeting, we weren't time constrained, and we were able to go through a lot of different issues, discuss them, deliberate them, and come to some resolution on that. This is sort of a big thing. And we think it would significantly enhance the efficiency of the full board meeting if we were able to deliberate things like complaints prior to the board meeting at the engineering committee level, and then submit those to the board as consent-based recommendations. Does that, I'll defer to Laura to
Yeah.
make sure I use the right terminology.
So we were talking about the consent agenda, which is kind of a term that we have adopted from the legislature, but some boards that have very long legal reports will create what they sort of call like the consent report. So basically we send the legal report out to all of you ahead of time. You all have a chance to read it. And then you just email us flagging cases that you would like specifically to discuss.
Can we also flag cases that we think would have unanimous consent on the recommendation?
So you can, but generally the way it works is that any case that no one has flagged, we put that on the consent agenda. And then when we get to the board meeting, we would read, those case numbers into the record, and then we would vote on them sort of as a block. Kind of similar to what we did at the last meeting with some of those cases related to out-of-state discipline. So, we were just talking about different ways that we could be a little bit more efficient when we're going through the legal report, since there is a chance that we're going to be adding yet another profession with more cases to this board in the future. So it's called a consent agenda, which is, like I said, it's just a term that we adopt from the legislature. It's something that they often do. So that was one of the things we talked about.
In order, again, you saw this is an anomaly today, obviously having Jennifer come in and speak. I mean, ordinarily we'd have roughly an hour to deliberate things and talk about different things. However, as you can see on every board meeting, there's a lot of deliberation at the board level with the complaints, primarily with the complaints, probably more than anything else that we have on the agenda. If we could address that at the committee level, I think it would be a lot more efficient. It would give us a lot more time to get input, feedback, if anybody had any questions or alternative recommendations. And we wouldn't have to do that at the board meeting.
So my only concern about that, and I don't have a problem if you guys want to talk about the cases at the committee meetings, but
Because it's still a public forum.
yes, it would certainly be appropriate to discuss. Because this board always has a reviewing member, I find that a lot of the deliberation you're gonna want the board member that reviewed the case to be there. So if that person happens to not be on the committee, then that would have, right?
And if
so
that's the
that might not
case,
be
we could,
super-
as you said, flag it for the board meeting. But for the most
Yeah.
part, we're all here
Yeah.
and could be here
Well,
the
'cause
day before.
generally, we're sending engineer cases to engineers, architect cases to architects, and so on and so forth. So, that was just the only thing I wanted to point out, is that you want to make sure that the reviewing member probably is.
We could do it one of two ways. We could either meet earlier than we do. I mean, I think everybody traveling from out of town gets here the night before and could probably be here by 8 o'clock, which would give us roughly 2 hours to that morning if we needed to go through some of these things. And look, there are other things that we usually have on our agendas too, but most of those wouldn't probably take nearly as much time as the complaints. So either have it the day before like we used to do, or move the time back for the committee meeting so that we'd have more time to go through everything that would be on the agenda, particularly including the complaints, so that we could adequately deal with that ahead of the full board meeting and maybe expedite things a little bit at the board level.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, and we're gonna have to work through it all. That's what we're talking about is, and so probably we'll have some committee meetings the day before, kind of return to that. We've done that before, and just to make sure we have enough time the day of. And then that's one night, so you guys done that before where we come in at 1 o'clock.
Well, we used to do it consistently
Right.
forever. And look, we could do it. It doesn't really, bringing people in the afternoon before takes a work day, another work day away from everybody. If we felt like we could try it one time where we just did the committee meeting a little earlier than we do it right now to give us 2 hours to get all of our agenda addressed, including the complaints, we could try that. If it's not sufficient time, then we could consider moving back to the afternoon before. Does that make sense to everybody?
Do you feel like you need a 2-hour committee meeting?
Well, the 2
I just
hours
feel like
isn't.
That would be quite a
isn't-
lot.
The 2 hours isn't specifically for complaints, although I strongly suspect, look, I don't think it's a big secret. The engineers seem to have more complaints than anybody else. And then the other element of this is once we add surveyors, I suspect they have complaints as well to deal with. And if we add surveyors into this, all that's going to do is stretch the board meeting out even further. So if anything we can do to expedite that and to make it more efficient, I think we should at least attempt to do.
Can we do it on a case by case basis, like, for
Mhm.
example, this meeting has a much longer, even for the meeting.
That's typically what we try to do is but obviously that, you guys get the documents the weekend before, Thursday or Friday, and sometimes we don't know how big the report's going to be because they're still waiting on stuff too. There's expert reviews coming in. Sometimes you'll have responses that come in last minute. Human nature is such as it is. You'll have a respondent that sort of dragging their feet, and then they realize, oh, there's a meeting. We have that with application reviews all the time. It's us. Hey, where's that piece of information? Where's that piece of information? Whatever it is, a provider. And then I've seen this with other boards. It's not unique to A&E. It's human nature.
But if that is the case, then generally that would have to be delayed to the next board meeting. If it comes in late and and whoever the reviewer is has to re-review something, it's probably not going to get done in time to get on the agenda for that board meeting anyway.
Actually it does. We'll see them flood in. We'll see like maybe 10, 15, 20% of action items. I can't speak for legal report necessarily, but I've seen that in other boards, but also with, courses. I've seen courses go from, 10 courses to 15 in like a week, where it all just floods in that last minute. So sometimes we don't really know the full load of, I don't feel the weight of it until like a week out from the board meeting. So, yeah, we're just going to have to flow with it. I would say
That's probably all the more reason to allocate additional time at the committee level for that review.
Yeah, that's where that is where this is going. So it may be 8 o'clock. It may be, but also it could be the day before. And so to Ash's point, we'll have to be flexible to the workload and just kind of anticipate that's where that's going. But also too, there's some things that we can do better. And we talked about that a little bit. And this board is the only board that at least in my portfolio, that has a board member reviewing it. And so then they're getting the ins and outs of all of it. And they're working in concert with the attorney. So there's a little bit, the recommendations got a little bit more heft and gravitas to it than maybe some of what we get in some of our other boards. But so that's one thing. The other thing too is, we talked about, the consent agenda. That's a great option. And the consent agenda, you've been at your association meetings where anybody at the day of the meeting or deliberation can pull stuff off the consent agenda. They'll stand up and say, I want number 1, 2 off. And Kentucky wants item 3 off. And, Ohio wants item 6 off. Well, we would conduct that the same way. You have we would give you enough advance. Everyone's reading the report. And so you come to the board meetings and saying, Jason says, I want item number 4 off. Colin says, I want number 2 off. And then Alton says, I want number 7 off, because you have your questions, which would assume that everything else is consent. Just by nature, it's consent. No one else has any objections. So then we take what's left, what hasn't been picked apart, and then that we read into the record and the recommendation, and it's off the list. That's how that would typically work. That's how we function in other boards. We didn't call it a consent agenda, but in a prior iteration before I came here, that's what we would do. We would come to board members when we had like collections is a great example. They had a long report. I would say, which ones do you have questions about? And like 3 or 4 of the members would pick, well, I've got questions on 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then everyone would be like, yeah, me too. But I've got one more I want to add to that. And we would just talk about those. And then everything else, we would just read the number, the recommendation. They'd all vote as a slate. That was a consent agenda. We didn't call it that, but that's what it was. And so I think that would be, I'd like to try that first, and then if it doesn't do what I think it's going to do, I've seen it work in other boards, but if it doesn't do what I think it's going to do, what I do want to, then we can move to something else. But what I do want to avoid is double deliberation, like the idea is to reduce the imprint. And if we're reworking because we're talking about it in our committee meeting.
We already double deliberate. You have the reviewer that reads and makes the decision and makes a recommendation, and then it comes to the board, and then everybody at the board level has the opportunity to deliberate it and ask questions about it. So we're already doing that. This would hopefully eliminate that.
Well, then what we're talking about could be triple deliberation, because then if I'm using your example, we've got an SME looking at it, the committee looks at it, and then respectfully, the board's going to have some questions about it too. If the committee says on these cases, we've said
I think this would tend to significantly reduce the deliberation that the rest of the board would have if the engineering committee came to a consent on which ones everybody unilaterally agreed that, yes, this is the right recommendation.
And that may very well work. And we're going to float all those stuff. We're going to try a little bit up, a piece of here, a piece there, and we'll give it a run and see if that's the case. But if the committee comes and says, hey, we feel pretty good about this, but then the board you know, you do have other design professions that are gonna say, well, we haven't historically done it this way, and I'm gonna need a little bit more information. How'd y'all come to that conclusion? I was thinking in the past, we've done 1,000, not 500 per each issue. See, now we're deliberating again. Whether we want to think we're deliberating or not, we are deliberating. And so that's the thing that I want to avoid. If it's really cutting something out, then that's good. But if we, and it may do just that. It may, the committee say, yep, that's what it is. And the rest of the board says, rubber stamp it, it's out the door.
Yeah, I think it's at least worth a try.
Yeah. Sounds good. We definitely make it work and fit it in there and see where we end up. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Glenn, do we have a huge backlog in all this complaint?
We've got a backlog. I don't know how big or it is, but we do have one.
We definitely had somewhat of a backlog on
Yeah.
complaints. And so that's why you've seen like some different initials, different names, different
Well,
attorneys reaching out
The
to
reason
you.
I ask is that I think, isn't it, every open case, we have so many days to at least take some action?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
part of like our metrics as employees at the department. And definitely in the, you know, we had some turnover with legal on this board. I had some different attorneys helping me, and we built up some cases
But
that we did not slip through the cracks. It's not that we forgot
Yeah.
about them. We just weren't moving as quickly as I would like us to. But we have Joseph Kennedy, who's here, who I introduced to some of you before the board meeting. So he is our new attorney. He is dedicated to this board. And in the meantime, I have enlisted the help of some of the other attorneys that work on my team to help us with some of that backlog. I have assigned out all of the cases that I would consider backlog cases. So you saw a lot last meeting, you're seeing some this meeting, you'll see a couple more next meeting. And then I think at that point, we're good. Like, I don't anticipate this going on for more than this meeting and next meeting. And at that point, the legal report will probably be a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
I imagine anywhere from like 12 to 15 cases
Well-
based on the numbers. But if the bill that would add land surveyors to this board goes through, what do they get? They get about 7 to 9 cases. They get about 7 to 9 cases every, how?
They're quarter. So
So they're
the-
quarterly, and they have
yeah.
about 7 to 9 cases on each report.
Mhm.
So
roughly 5, 6.
roughly 5, yeah, I'm not great with
Well, I
math.
mean,
I'm not
the
an
reason
engineer.
why I brought it up is because we had the same problem.
Mhm.
But I think we need to set a goal. And everything's discussed, additional hours and work, those good stuff. But what we don't want to do is to wear ourselves out
Mm.
and wear the register out. If you take action, if there's an open complaint, take us a long time to get there, it defeats the purpose, the
Mhm.
impact of it. And I tell you, one of the things that I haven't come back to, I really like the way we do our review now. Staff, I know Ashley, I always see Ashley send me a nice email every week. So I never miss her because she will send me. But I think what is really helpful every time those pages will say, these are the steps, this guy is coming as committee as step 2, step 3. I think we need to get to a point where we can put our hands around it. What is really important, those cases, if it's really strict violation of plan stamping, for example, that is a no-brainer. That the SME can just say, hey, this is what we need to do. And I think we need to trust our SME. And then by the time it gets to the engineering committee, the committee should just say, okay, let's go forward with it. And then if the larger board wants to discuss further, then we may need to allocate the
So
time.
I think this is sort of what we were talking about. I think that is when I was talking
Yeah.
about the consent agenda or whatever you guys would want to call it. I think that is, so that's sort of the larger point is we have one of the members on the board review every single complaint. And I think you guys can probably trust each other that if the person that saw all the documents feels comfortable going forward, by all means, if you have a comment about, I see this differently, or I think maybe we could calculate the penalty differently. Like I'm not trying to say there should be no discussion, but I want to get these cases moving. I think it's fair to the respondent, it's fair to the complainants. And you know, it's a goal. We also get, we get performance reviews as employees, and we definitely get, graded on whether or not we're like moving these cases at an appropriate speed. So those are just some of the conversations we had. Looking forward to adding the land surveyors to this board, which again isn't for sure, but seems pretty likely. And we just wanted to talk about different ways to be efficient. So Alton had suggested maybe using the committee meetings more. We talked about the consent agenda. I really wanted to encourage you guys to maybe have a little bit more trust that like your board members who have reviewed it feel comfortable going forward, that you can trust that they saw the documents, they know what they're talking about. Frank had asked that we maybe, what you're going to see today is that we're going to, when I'm presenting the cases, I'm going to sort of just summarize them instead of reading the entire thing into the record. So there's just a couple things that we're doing to be a little bit more efficient. And part of that is me trying to address this backlog, but that we're moving on that.
Yeah.
That's not going to be an issue forever. We're also just
Mhm.
looking at what's a better way to be efficient as we look to add even more to this board.
Thank you. Yeah.
I will say one thing that I think has helped a lot is we're now getting complaints, but we're also getting kind of recommendations from the legal team
Mhm.
about specifically which laws and or rules may apply. And I for one appreciate, I don't always go with that.
Yeah.
There may be other things too, but it is very, very helpful that you're doing that. And I appreciate that you've altered the previous methodology to incorporate that in. It's been really better for us, I think.
Yeah.
And there's some growing pains. We're all trying to figure out because it's a transition with that element, the backlog, the immediate backlog, but then also adding the board. It's going to take a little time, and there's going to be some tension to manage. And so we're gonna figure it out. And these are all great recommendations. And now I got to boot you guys out and then put the committee on here if that's okay, the other committee. Otherwise, they're gonna have anything left for the bylaws.
Hey, we can use Alton as our co-pilot. He's the AI.
All right, so I guess I'm gonna invite our bylaws folks up if they can work their way up here if they're present. Bylaws.
Can you remind us who the
Bylaws committee?
bylaws committee is
Oh,
comprised
yes,
of?
the bylaws committee, those folks are, let me pull them up. Collins, Rick Thompson, Blair, Alton, Melanie, and Jeff Nelly. How do we get Alton on that committee too? I don't know. Who is responsible? Yes, and thank y'all for that discussion.
No, I'm the weakest link. Yes.
All right, so we're just keep rolling so to get as much time as we can in and sort of stage what we can. We got about 18, 20 minutes. So Mr. Collins, if you'll call it to order, I'll go ahead and take the roll. All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Collins,
Here?
Rick Thompson. We'd lose.
He's here.
He is here. Blair Parker.
Here.
Alton Heathcote,
I'm here.
Melanie Doss,
Here.
and Jeff Nally. All right, we do have a quorum then, and sir, if you wanted to go over you'll have that document in front of you. There's two documents in front of you. Thank you, Mr. Collins, for putting that or getting that in order. But we've got bylaws comparison with TCA, and then you got the bylaws themselves with his comments. So, Chair, if you would.
Yeah, so again, the purpose of what we're trying to do here is to review and update the existing bylaws and also to make sure that what we're doing complies with the TCA as well as the bylaws and everything's kind of, syncs up there. So the two documents that I prepared and Glenn forwarded to you, one of them is just a summary by section of the bylaws and how that corresponds to what's in the TCA for the information that I could find anyway, and some thoughts about that. And then the second document is the one that's called bylaws. And it's just a copy of our bylaws, but I've added some notes in there of things that I identified as I was going through it for us to discuss. So I don't know that we necessarily need to go through the comparison to the TCA, particularly the short time that we have. Maybe we should just go straight to the bylaws document itself. And there's, some things in here that I think are, some stuff we can just kind of clean up. Like, for instance, the first The first thing that I had noted in there was in section 3.02, where it talks about electronic means for communication and participation in meetings. That stuff is now covered in other state laws. It's covered in a couple of different places. It may be something that we can just eliminate from our bylaws because it's already covered in other places. The one that's probably going to take a little bit more discussion is in section 5.03, the nomination and election process.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
And I'm a little confused about the voting remotely because we've been at meetings before where I thought you had to be present for your vote to be counted. Is that correct?
Right. So my understanding is that requirement has changed. And
Okay.
the way that the law is currently written, it doesn't require the member to be physically present. If they're
For their vote to
for the vote
count?
to count.
That's correct. That law was changed recently, so
Correct.
that's no longer, yeah.
Okay,
Right.
thank you. Thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, they do have to be in virtual attendance and then
Right.
and then everything is a roll call vote at that point, but.
They can't do it by proxy. They have to be, yes, right.
Correct.
Okay.
Right, that's right. Well, and that's another thing we encourage our members when they do attend to be on the camera so that there's, there's assurances that are afforded to us when we have that. And then we go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. So the next section is section 5.03 about the nomination and election procedures. And what we're currently doing right now doesn't really align with what the TCA says that we should be doing or what's stated here. It basically says that the new officers should take office after July 1, and we're doing it after January 1 is how we're doing it. So that's something that we probably need to look at what we're doing and also make sure that the bylaws and the TCA are matched up. We may need to adjust some stuff in the bylaws to make that work or whatever. And then I think we're gonna have to end up changing our process a little bit so that we then align with what the bylaws and TCA require.
Yeah, agreed. I know the state is on a July 1 to June 30 fiscal year. Is that why that's set up that way, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
I was taking notation of an action item. What was the last question?
I guess the difference is we appoint whoever the nominees are January 1 instead of July 1, which is what the bylaws, I think, call for. And I know the state's on the July 1 to June 30 fiscal year.
There's freedom out because many of the other boards just say annual. it's not a fiscal year or anything like that. And there's nothing holding us to that either. Like if you were hiring and paying that person, then their fiscal, that would matter because in budgets, right? But annual, so there's freedom. You can choose. I would just probably mirror the way you're doing it now since you're already doing it on October and run with that. That'd be fine.
Well, I think what James is talking about is section 5.03. It says that nominations for chair, vice chair, and secretary will be called at the first meeting of the calendar year.
Yeah, and voted on at the last meeting before the beginning of the fiscal year. So
Right.
by that, we should be voting on it in our June meeting and not voting on it in our December meeting.
Right. So that,
Because we usually make the nominations in October, right?
Right.
yeah, however you want to do that would be fine. There's complete freedom on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So again,
Do you have a recommendation?
well, I mean, so the TCA says that they should take office after July 1. So it kind of depends on what we want to do. I think we need to talk
Mhm.
about that as a committee is, what do we think is the right way for us to do this? And then, we can either make changes to what the bylaws say.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, just a little history on that. Previously, when we had our retreat, that's when the new chairperson would take, we moved it like that and without, I guess, consulting this. So that's one of the reasons it got pushed, and that happened several years ago. So obviously it's different than what's here, but just as a historic back note.
The retreat was typically October.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The retreat was in October, and wherever we were, that's when the new chairperson started.
Yeah,
But
when does
I
the
guess
when did the nominations committee meet, Rick?
it was more in line with what the bylaws say.
Okay.
Yeah, but everything sort of shifted, you know, and I guess it was for convenience for us, maybe. I'm
probably.
not sure, but.
Yeah, that was before my time. But yes, that it sounds like based on this historical you're giving, that's exactly what happened. So yeah, you could just shift back and
Don't we normally consider the October meeting our annual meeting? I mean, and that's traditionally when the nominations were made, right? It,
No,
I don't
we
really
made
care.
the nominations earlier and then we voted on them like in July, maybe, somewhere in that range. But then they didn't take effect until October when we had our retreat, our annual retreat.
So
I mean, we could move it where they do July, whatever, you know, and get in alignment with this.
I think according to this, we'd probably meet at our first meeting of the year, which would be February, and make the nominations.
Make the
and then
nominations then.
Implement them at the June meeting.
Yeah.
So there's some clarification on that. The bylaws, or I guess it's the state law, says that we are required to have 2 meetings per year. Is all we're required to have. Okay, so they were saying the first meeting that you have, you need to nominate your officers, and the second meeting you need to vote on.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
but given that we have enough business to meet every other month,
Yes.
that would be nominate in February, right?
Yes.
And then vote in April?
Well, we could vote. We can again modify what the bylaws say so that we can change it to do essentially what we're doing now, I believe, where we could, have the nominations occur. We could vote on it the last meeting before the end of the fiscal year, which would be our June meeting.
June meeting.
And then the officers, then we could modify the bylaws to say that the officers take office at the October meeting or whenever we want to do that.
August, October, whatever.
Yeah.
So we just need to make a recommendation and is that correct, council?
Are there other, is there
I don't
other
want to get in
language
trouble
somewhere
here.
else that contradicts this?
Is that there's 2 or 3 places where there's something that's said about it, and we just need to make sure we get all that aligned.
Yeah.
With whatever approach this committee wants to take.
And that's a good point because when I read it, I thought, we're out of sync with this.
Yeah.
So, but I just wanted to bring that up. So thank you.
Does anybody have a recommendation? I mean, if we keep 5.03 the way it is, that means that we would, I'm sorry, Jeff, I'll shut up in a minute. That we would have the nominations make the nominations during February, vote on it in April, and then implement it in June. Does that make sense?
No, so this says that we would vote on them the last meeting at the end, before the end of the fiscal year. So it would not be voted on in April, they'd be voted on in June.
Okay,
Right,
okay.
if we follow what's in the bylaws. Jeff?
So is there a definitive explicit requirement that we have to list the exact date? Can it not be more generic to say that it's annually? Like, do we have to list the date in the bylaws?
you could nominate and elect all on the first meeting of the year. That would be fine. And then effective July 1. You could do that. And I would just keep it simple. The last thing you would do is, because a lot of boards that say annual will literally they'll make a recommendation like on the spot and then we'll have a vote and then that's the end of it. I'd hate to have 3 meetings or 2 you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. So you could just say first meeting of the year, that you nominate and vote effective July.
So in that scenario, then February, the nomination committee would meet and then we would vote that same meeting.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
if we do not vote that same meeting, it comes back the following meeting. It still works in
Right.
with the way that code is currently
Right.
prepared.
Its
Right?
first meeting of the year is you're subject to that new year, that calendar year. Otherwise, we don't want to paint ourselves in a corner and say January 1, because it's January 1. Now we got to do an emergency. You know what I mean? Like it just first meeting of the year, nominate, vote, and then effective July 1.
Just quick parliamentary thing. How long does it take to change a bylaw?
Nothing. You guys do that.
Okay.
So, yeah, no time at all. If this was rules, it'd be a whole different ball game, but, because that's gov ops and all the rest, but yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. As far as how we have previously done this, we can keep this in place where the chair, the vice chair, and was it secretary?
Secretary.
Secretary, you know, we're rolling up the ladder like that. And if anybody wants to put their name in the hat, then they'll need to do that in their first meeting.
Yep.
I
And,
mean, nominate from the floor for
Yep.
the nominations committee.
Yep.
But the nominations committee will have kind of a standing order of who's moving up and out, is what I'm saying. So if we keep it in that sequence, the nomination committee nominates, it's basically a formality.
No, it'd be a smooth transition too, because instead of October, they'd be, I mean, because you'd be, this whole process, instead of this October, we would just pick it up in February, you know, and so
Yeah,
if
yeah.
these bylaws were changed, so it'd be, you know, Frank would be riding that pony for a little while longer, you know, but that's okay. A few more months, you know, we can manage that.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, that's easy, I think, unless someone says, well, I can't for some reason, and it would be nice to know that prior
Mhm.
to the nominating committee meeting, and that may not occur. So is that some kind of, I mean, we could handle that at that February meeting.
Yes, sir. And
Yeah.
that squares with the other boards, because almost all of them first meeting, that's when we take care of election of officers.
Yeah,
You know, that's
yeah.
why when I first came on board and I saw it October, I knew there was a reason. So I was glad you explained that to me, and I appreciate that. But that was different. Most of the other boards, first meeting of the year, they handle that.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right. So if it's okay with the committee, I'll take a shot at rewriting what needs to be rewritten so that it matches, and get that out to everybody to look at before the next meeting, and then we can bless that at the next
Yep.
meeting.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. The next section that we've got to talk about is the standing committees. And there's some committees in here that I think that, that we may not need. There are some that we, you know, like for instance, the finance committee. I mean, I think that was probably written in a different day and time when this organization was looking at the finances a lot more. Now Glenn is doing that. So that's probably a committee that we could do away with, for instance. And the Law and Rules Committee says that in that committee shall talk about legislation and that sort of thing, which we can't do because that violates our lobbying rules. So we need to modify that to take out some of that stuff. And then there's also some stuff about the Outreach Committee. So I guess, you know, and like the Continuing Education Committee, for instance, I mean, do we really need to have, you know, just questioning in my mind, do we really need to have a separate committee for that? Or is that something that each one of the professional committees should be addressing as part of their activity? Because, you know, for the engineers are going to be the only ones interested in the engineering continuing education, you know, the architects are the only ones really, you know, interested in the architectural continuing education. So do we need to do that as a committee that involves multiple different disciplines, or do we want to just do that as something that occurs within the discipline committees? So just some thoughts. I'd love to get everybody's input on that.
One thing for that, over the several years, a rub for the architects is we go to the NCARB meetings, and that's HSW all the way through, but we can't claim that because AIA won't sanction it. But if the state of Tennessee will sanction it, then I'll claim it. So, and I know we're supposed to be, I don't know what the language is, but we're supposed to be getting some credit for these meetings. I think, I don't remember how many, up 2 hours.
Yeah.
But it doesn't help us if they're not HSW.
Right.
So, I mean, I only claim HSW hours.
Yeah.
I get my 12 every year and move on. So, but that's something that a continuing education committee would discuss and make a recommendation. So I don't know that it has to be, I guess you'd have to have the committee in order to call a meeting.
It
but-
wouldn't have to be standing, but you could call it. For example, Frank, the chair, can say, you know, because you're not limited to just what you have on the record. If you find something that you're like, hey, look, we need to address that. Well, we don't have a standing committee for that, so I guess we can't do it. You know what I mean? No, you can do that. So I wouldn't list it as part of your bylaws, but you could still do it. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Well,
That's
that's
probably-
why I
yeah.
was, what, if we don't, if, maybe not get rid of it, but I don't know if we just kind of reword it or
Well, if
can
you-
it just
if
let
you-
it stand like it is?
If you have it
Follow when it's
listed, then
necessary.
you would probably gonna have to you have to convene it, you know what I mean? Because it's there and so what I would do is, I would strike it because you can still use it. You can call it anytime you want. You don't have to have it listed, you know? And so the chair, the board, whenever they feel like it, you can call it any committee.
You know,
that-
the continuing education is part of the laws and rules anyway. What, you just roll out that responsibility in the laws and rules committee.
Well, that was the one he was talking about striking because laws, we don't have any impact on that whatsoever. And then departmental bills come through the executive leadership and rules, you kind of skirting the line with, I mean, you have rulemaking already, you know, and so the board can discuss it and you can convene like you did recently with the definitions. And so that'd probably be one I would strike and then call if you need it. But I wouldn't just have a
Well,
standing
It's
committee.
not, yeah, no, I mean, beyond definitions though, we also modified the
Mhm.
methodologies for path to licensure. And we've done that a number of
Mhm.
times in the past. I mean, again, those are relatively remote. I mean, we don't do that very often.
And there's an impetus though, if it's listed that you need to be meeting, you know, and so, and if it's as needed, then why list it? Because you already have the authority, you know? So that's the only thing I would say about that. So,
So how would, if we don't have the committee, how would we would just deliberate that at the board meeting, put it on the agenda?
no, you could have the
deliberate?
committee. You just don't have to, we're saying having the committee and having it listed on their bylaws are two separate issues. You can have the committee anytime you like. I wouldn't list on their bylaws since that's what we're talking about.
No, what I was talking about is just moving continuing education is already addressed in laws and rules.
Right.
So why not just delete continuing education and whatever we need to address under continuing education? If at some point we say, wait, we think we need to go from 12 to 15 hours, it could be done under laws and rules because we'd have to change that anyway.
Yes, you could do that.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Is that a law and rules, having the 12 HSW?
It is. It is.
Okay, all
Yes,
right.
sir.
Well, yeah. it makes-
Under continuing education in the laws and rules. Yeah.
Whatever pleases the board.
Okay. And then we're going to have to be wrapping it up. So I'll tell you what, James, if you want to just go to hit those last two real quick and then.
Yeah, I think we've talked about everything except for the outreach committee, which, you know, I just think there's a committee that I don't think we've had meet but something we've talked about a lot as a group. It's an activity that we need to be doing. And so again, that's just something maybe we might want to look at how that's worded and what it says and what is required. I mean, don't necessarily need to be publishing a newsletter necessarily, but we need to be making information available to the public, to our constituents, you know, about what we're doing. And, you know, maybe we kind of look at this language in here and revamp that so that it's something more appropriate to what we're allowed or capable of doing now that wasn't capable of doing when this was written.
I know several times in the past, y'all, those of y'all that have been on when remember Steve King, when he was on here, he was very passionate about the newsletter. I think Frank, to some extent, has also expressed some desire to bring the newsletter back. I know Kentucky and Alabama and other Texas and other entities issue newsletters about what's going on in their organization, what they're doing, what new laws and rules, what other issues they take up. We haven't done that for a great long period of time, and I suspect we can get a lot of kickback maybe from the administration because of the costs associated with that. But how would we, just I'm not endorsing or I'm not being negative about it. How would we orchestrate that if we did want to do a newsletter?
Yeah, have to be a discussion for another day because we're already out of time. So if we can wrap up this one and then jump into, and then of course, if you want to bring it up in new business, we could do that as well. We get the board meeting, but
That's all that I had.
okay, great.
Yeah.
If you can put that into a draft then for us, and I appreciate you doing that. That will help sort of crystallize it for all of us, what we discussed. And then I'll disseminate that to the rest of the committee and get your feedback, and then we'll have another work product. How about that?
That
That'll
sounds
work
good.
out.
And James, the spreadsheet was great.
Yeah.
Good.
It was really helpful, I think. So thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll wrap this one up. And then 10:30, it looks like we got our board meeting. So if everyone else wants to join us, I'll give us a minute here.
Testing, testing. Yeah, it did earlier.
Oh.
So I don't know.
Everybody, welcome back. We are moving, like, we're not playing around. So I got a couple committees, so we've got a lot of work done there, presentation, and now we've got the full board. To make it official, Mr. Waxer, if you'll gavel us in, we'll take roll.
Yes, I'd like to call to order the Thursday, April 2nd, 2026 meeting of the Tennessee Board of Architectural and Engineering Examiners.
All right, great. Thank you. Roll call then. Jason Carter,
Here.
Melanie Doss,
Here.
Philip Lim,
Yeah.
Blair Parker,
Here.
Rick Thompson,
Here.
Brian Tibbs, Frank Wagster,
Here.
Dr. Ash, Jeff Nally,
Here.
Eddie Jett,
Here.
James Collins,
Here.
and Alton Heathcote.
Pleased to have the opportunity to support my profession.
Yeah, you do not disappoint. I was waiting. That's why I put you last. All right, notice of public comment period is located at the end of the agenda. I always let folks know whether they're online or if they're attending here physically. That's just a reminder that we will have a public comment period, and that'll be at the very end after new business right before we adjourn. So be prepared for that. We'll need to sign in, and then, of course, we'll acknowledge you in 2 to 3 minutes pertaining to items on the agenda. Meeting notice then. Notice of the April 2nd, 2026 meeting of the Board of Architectural and Engineering Examiners has been noticed on the website since September 26, 2025. This month's agenda was posted on March 26, 2026. Then quick announcements. Just a couple items. One, first of all, most importantly, I'd like to introduce you to our new attorney, Joey Kennedy. We're glad to have him on board. He was an intern back in 2020. So it's good to see his face. Before it was like this, you know. So we now know what he looks like, and he's here with us, and he came back. So that's a good sign, right? So we're hoping to hang on to him. Y'all shut the door if he gets any ideas. You know, if you see he starts getting cagey, we'll lock the door. But he's already been digging in. He's covered a lot of ground already, and I know he's gonna be great. Thank you, Joey. Then also just a quick thing that'll probably be covered in the professional society reports. But the only update I had was that retrospective rules and definitions were approved. So that's good news.
Those will be effective on June 3rd. So
Yeah.
that has been maybe the longest rulemaking project I've ever been involved in, but I'm excited. We have reached the end. So
Has it been 4 years?
it was, yeah.
Seems
Yeah.
like 5.
I'm gonna go with 4, but it feels like 10.
But
So,
thank you, Laura, for
I think there was
Staying
just a
with
lot
it.
of conversation about those definitions before we could really move forward, but those will be effective June 3rd.
No, I appreciate that. Retrospective rules was a part of that. So that also made, that was a mega sort of package. So June 3rd, the rules look different. All right. So, and then also the professional association will probably cover it, but then I think there is an amendment floating out there bringing an interior designer back. So we'll see if that gets across the threshold and what will happen there. But I suspect they'll unpack that when they get there. And but that was all we had for announcements. I think we're ready then for the agenda. Now, for the agenda, I'd like to make 2 requests for the agenda. One, I'd like to add grant guidelines to be added to agenda after NCARB Regional Summit upgrade and or update, and then application review after legal report. And so we just have one application, and then obviously that one was one of those late arrivals that I mentioned earlier in the engineers meeting that happens sometimes. And so We're trying to, we'll see. But really depends how much we'll be able to give to that, depending on how fast the legal report goes. So we've got quite a legal report, so we're not going to try to let grass grow on our feet. So if somebody would allow for that, that was the grant guidelines after in-car, and that's not going to be a full discussion. That's just an update that you requested, so that should take no time at all.
Move to approve.
Yep, sir. We got a motion from Mr. Heathcote. Got a second from Dr. Ash. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, then we'll add those to the list. Okay, thank you. Approval of meeting minutes. We got a motion to accept those from Mr. Tibbs. Do we have a second? Got a second from Jason Carter. All in
We
favor,
have a
please say.
motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Frank, for taking back the helm. I get a little excited sometimes. You got to sometimes push. Yeah, I'll take it, boy. All right. Professional society reports then. Casey Anderson. Oh, you're up. You go. Miss Bierman, go please. Miss Bierman, Allie Bierman.
Hello, good to see y'all again. My name is Allie Bierman, current chapter president of IIDA for Tennessee.
And I'm Hannah Finch. I am past president of ASI Tennessee and on our advocacy committee.
Is that better? No?
Or short, I'm sorry.
They're recording, so go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. Thank you all for hanging in there with us last meeting. I know we caused quite the disturbance, but I do have an update on the issues that we presented to you last board meeting. So I would like to just thank you for your time and attention to the concerns that we presented at the last A&E board meeting with the Senate Bill 2224. So as you might know, IIDA, ASID, and CIDQ have a national consortium agreement to remain aligned on legislative efforts, financial efforts, in terms of advocacy. So IIDA and ASID Tennessee received emergency funding from the consortium to hire a lobbyist. And so Jay Busey is on our team, and he's been tracking the bill's progress and monitoring the attached amendment that we've been following. So that's just a status update about, IIDA and ASID's legislative efforts. That amendment is tracking with both the House and the Senate bills, which is great news, and it will remove the related interior design language, keep Melanie on our board, and basically just reverse everything. So we created after this past board meeting, we created a voter voice campaign, and that was created by our consortium, and they were able to create a way for our membership to directly email their representatives. Over 1,700 emails were sent to our representatives, educating them about the health, safety, welfare impacts of our career and our industry. So education of this board and our respected representatives remains the top priority, and that's something that we noticed that we have a huge gap in. So it's really important that we communicate the things that interior designers touch in the built environment, and how we should be responsible, regulated, and tested for that responsibility. So we're just going to keep educating our representatives, and as they come home, we have plans to take them on field trips to different projects and invite them in to our firms and our respective communities, so that they can see what we do on a daily basis, so we can kind of mitigate and that risk of deregulation happening again. So currently the House Bill 2530 was voted through by the House Finance, Ways and Means Committee yesterday afternoon. It was moved to calendar and rules, and it was scheduled actually at 10 o'clock today. It's number 45 on the agenda. We've become very very aware of the legislative process. So we're very educated on that now. And then the Senate bill, its companion is scheduled for Commerce and Labor on April 7th, and that time will be to be determined. And then Jay is really monitoring the progress for us on the Hill, so we're excited about that. And we just want to, thank you again for your individual support for our concern. So I'll let Hannah take it away for next update.
Yeah. And of course, timing is definitely of the essence, but we did have our 4th annual Better Together Advocacy Symposium. So that was held this past Friday at Hastings Architecture and was a huge success, as it usually is. It's just a time for us to, basically invite not only our chapter memberships, but also anyone in the profession, the public, whoever wants to just know more about what we do, give an update on advocacy efforts, legislation, and just, of course, a nice networking among professions. So we did have about 40 to 50 in person, and we had over 100 online. We had some watch parties all across the state, from East Tennessee and Chattanooga. I mean, multiple firms. So it was really, really great. So first, the National Consortium did give their legislative update, as they usually do, and this is followed by a presentation on basically how a bill is created and run through the whole legislative path. It's purely informative. We thought, there was a lot of confusion over what has been going on. This is the first time we've had something, I think, come up that we've had to fight since, I think they tried to tax interior design services years ago. So it was just kind of an update of like what's going on. Of course, introducing our lobbyist, so that we had a panel discussion with him following that. And then just followed by a happy hour with networking. So we'll continue to do these. This is more of our informative presentations. We'll still have more of just an overall networking, and we usually do more of a fundraising effort for advocacy. Usually have something to do with students in the fall, so we'll announce that briefly. And then last thing, just jointly, I-Corps committee released its practice overlap guidance. They've been working on this for a while. So this is for interior design, architecture, landscape architecture, engineering, and surveying. It's now available in public on their website. So they've had a good amount of webinars just informing everything, going through it, but it is actually live. As a reminder, this guidance is a consensus-based, non-binding tool intended to support regulators and practitioners in navigating practice overlap in a way that reinforces public protection while recognizing the collaborative nature of our modern design practice. This is a first of its kind. CIDQ especially has done a tremendous job getting the word out to our certificate holders, and of course our allied professional societies. So we'll continue to get that word out to memberships as well, just to have that resource readily available. And then moving on just to some specific ASID updates. We do have our next quarterly advocacy forum with ASID National and all its chapter representatives, April 28th. That's another way for all of the chapters to get together, collaborate on what's been going on, give ideas for what they're doing with advocacy, and updating any legislative efforts among our other states. We do have a day on the Hill in DC scheduled for this September 29th. Last year, we were slated to budget for at least one representative to participate in this and advocate for their particular state or region. So that's happening this year, and it will continue to happen every other year. So we'll give a great update on that. We are calling for volunteers at this time. Our nominations for the 2026 to 27 board have to be completed by the end of this month. So we are currently interviewing, getting those nominations in. And of course, we're always looking for non-voting committee members as well. As far as just past meetings events, we had our February monthly meeting, and we always have this tied to a CEU that was provided by ProSource at Stock and Trade. We had our first annual sponsor luncheon at Four Spaces Design. This is now just a way for our new annual sponsors to come meet and mingle with the ASID board, get to know, put a face to a name, get to know, or, ask how they want to be involved. So a little more of just a networking thing there. It was great. And we did have our first official coffee meetup at Sherwin-Williams Cool Springs. We started these as regular meetups at various parts of towns that's convenient for our membership, just to basically come and mingle with other members. So there's no agenda. It's purely just come have a coffee, have a snack, network, and meet your other professions. Upcoming meetings, we have on April 9th, we call it Unplugged in Knoxville. Susan Ballard and Melanie Doss are answering questions about registration, the bill, and professional development for the interior design community. So it's going to be really exciting. And then on the 10th in Nashville, we have our annual outdoor living event with CEUs. It's kind of a day to kind of rack up your credits. That's going to be at the Nashville Design Collective per usual. May 1st, we have our next coffee meetup, as mentioned, and that is going to be in the Belmead area at Sherwin-Williams. May 19th, we have our next monthly meeting in CEU, and this is at ProSource from 4 to 6. And of course, one exciting update is we finally have a new website that we've been working on for about a year now. So that is now live. I believe so. It's been one that we're working on for a while now, but all of our events, information about the board, how to get involved, membership, all of that will now be live and much easier to access. So you can find additional save the dates and registration info there. Pass it on for IDA.
Just have a few upcoming things for IDA. So we're developing fundraising strategies for our advocacy efforts. Again, those will be, split between ASID and IDA moving forward. So we have in progress a graphic designer on board that's helping us design some merch. So our membership can support us and we can use those profits towards our lobbying efforts. And then our board will be turning over in July. So we're currently preparing to vote for our next slate of leadership positions. Future events, we have an event today. It's just a social kind of crafting event at FSA Lighting over on Grassmere. And then next week, I and our president-elect will be traveling to speak at the Unplugged panels in Chattanooga for lunch, Knoxville for dinner. And then later this month, we'll be doing the same thing in Memphis with a roundtable to just talk about the Memphis IADA community. So in summary, we're doing a lot and we really appreciate all of your support. So thank you. Yeah.
May I add, thank you for being here. And the last meeting was a very interesting meeting.
It was.
Especially with you all showing up in mass. I was really impressed by that. And in particular, we all know the timeline in which this broke and how quickly you got your act together and brought people in, the professionals in. So it was a really good thing. So I was very much impressed, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a quick turnaround. I think it was like Tuesday to Thursday. So you can tell that our memberships are very much involved. So.
Yeah, that membership reads their emails, don't they?
Oh, yes, they do. Yes, they do.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, Ms. Bierman, and thank you, Ms. Finch. Appreciate your time. All right, let me just check to see if there's any online, obviously, see if there's any other reps. They're not here, obviously, but they could be online. So let me just run through the list. Casey Anderson, are you online? Suzanne Herron? Ashley Cates? Charlie Schneider? Okay. Just make sure I didn't want to miss anybody. So, all right. I think we're good then. We can move on to the director's report. Budget report is just informational purposes only. Of course, I'll take any questions you have, but let me just go over the things. I always try to go over the things that I see first, because if I'm seeing it, then I suspect you will too. So during our last meeting, we went over the months of record through November. As a result, we're going to be looking at primarily the last 3 months of record, which would be December through February. There were 2 items that jumped out at me in February, both in February. You have under other and edit expenses at $388,125. That's due to the grant checks going out. And you're like, well, that's not 400,000. So let me just beat out into the punch. Well, that's because of one check's going out later. We had a vendor that they weren't updated in supplier maintenance, so they weren't able to receive that check. And so, but it did go out. So everyone is covered up to 400,000. So you'll see a little bit of a bump in other for probably March or April for when that check went out, or I guess March. And so, but nonetheless, those are grant checks. And so that you're used to seeing that in February, but it's been a year. So sometimes you forget and you see that big red and it sort of, I clutched my pearls and then I realized, oh yeah, that's grants. Everything's okay, and so nothing to see there. But And then the other item too was under technology and admin cost backs is a $31,580 expense item there. That's our share of division costs associated with core cloud hosting services from January through end billed to us. So everyone got a chunk of that, and some programs larger than ours, their chunk was much larger, but ours was 31,000. So that's just us paying our bills. So that's what that was. And then we are tracking for the year. We are looking right now a deficit of 30,000, but do not fear. We have 4 more months of record, and we always cure that near the end. So, and that's where we're headed as we stand. Any questions? All right, and of course, if you have any questions after the fact, just give me a ring and then or send me an email or whatever, and then I'll of course get within our ledger and talk to our accounting folks and then let you know what's going on with that and then update you at the next meeting. There's nothing for us to know, nothing actionable for that. So let's move on to the NCARB Regional Summit. I understand the architects had a meeting recently. Anybody want to enlighten us?
I'm sure Rick does. No, believe it or not, I don't have my notes with me, but the few things, the resolutions that are going to be proposed in June are usually brought up and discussed in the regional summit. And there's only 3 that are going to be brought up, and all of them are just basically housekeeping. And so as far as that goes, there wasn't a lot going on in the.
Well, you don't get a realignment every year, so I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Yeah.
So you got to have a break every once in a while.
Yeah. Our particular region had discussion on how it's organized. We're the only region, we're Region 3, but we're the only region that actually is organized as a 501c at B3, I think, or something. It's odd. But anyway, that was done a long time ago in order to try to raise funds for the region. And it never has come to fruition, basically. And so there was discussion of leaving that, not being under that anymore. Part of it is it's organized in the state of Alabama. Region 3 incorporates southern U.S. And we want to kind of get away from that. In a way, it seemed like it might have helped us in the realignment, in that to change Region 3 would have to be more than just decide to move state here and there. It'd have to be reorganized the Region 3. And so I don't know if that was the deciding factor, but that didn't hurt.
Yeah.
And so getting rid of that gives me a little question as to whether we want to get rid of that. So somebody wants to decide to realign again. But I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
And so what it would help is the way we're insured. And there have been 2 attorneys that have gone over it's not bylaws, but anyway, the way we're organized. And both have come up with some changes that should be done before we do anything. And I was hoping we would vote on that at the region meeting, but people decided they wanted to hear more about it. Surprise. And so that's being put off until our annual meeting in June.
All right.
I would like to also say that, like Frank said, our Region 3 organization, it truly made a difference when the alignment failed, realignment. because like Frank said, we would have to agree as a total region, and they were pulling Tennessee out, as everyone remembered, and swapping North Carolina. Who knows why? They're on coastal region, but they had no problem with that because it helped them. So, but no, and keeping that organization to some kind of degree puts Region 3 in a strong position. So I think we may be keeping it, but in a different way, different language. And state of Alabama, one of the board members wanted, since it's organized in Alabama, wanted to send it to their attorney general and just get an opinion from them about what that means. Now, I don't know why they have to get the AG involved, but it's a different, I don't think it has to come from them for permission. I mean, it's a group that votes on it.
Yeah, I mean, if you could close, potential exposure, insurance liabilities and exposures through, through language, while at the same time too, maintaining some autonomy, that'd be great. But I guess sounds like that's what they're working out.
Yeah, I think so. And like Frank said, we have lost our region attorney. That firm was dissolved, and those, whoever the attorneys were, went to different firms or started their own firms. So the guy that was representing us for, I don't know how many years, 15, 20, he's no longer practicing. So that's part of the issue, trying to get a new attorney on board. And so, but
All right.
it's drama, just Region 3 drama.
Region 3. Yeah.
That's it.
I will say we did let the group know about our interiors, what was going on with them in our state. So that was kind of a lot of discussion about that. They asked a lot about so we're one of the few boards that has so multidisciplined, and we have talked to them about the changes to our boards that there was a little concern about, but they were more like questions about how we operate when it's, such a big board with so multidisciplinary, because a lot of the boards are just architects or maybe just one other landscape architects.
We had those same questions in our engineer meeting, our committee meeting. So we're still working through it, but we're going to get there. We're going to figure it all out. So, yeah. All right. Well, it sounds like you guys had nonetheless a full meeting. And Region 3 never disappoints. So I always enjoy my time when I get an opportunity to meet with them. So,
and I would, one final point is we stayed at the Omni, and that was where Nebraska basketball team stayed. And it was wild. Yeah. And Houston was staying there as well.
Didn't Frank choose that hotel? I can't remember.
Yes, Frank
I
did.
thought that
Frank
makes
did.
sense.
Well, and
I only saw one Vanderbilt shirt at our hotel. So I went, oh, this is woo. So
I did
anyway,
go doors whenever I saw somebody.
It was interesting.
They were in Oklahoma City. It's with the March Madness. And so Nebraska team was right across the street. Their hotel was. Just happened to land that way. And so Frank was sharing the hotel. He was telling me about with a bunch of,
if you
Cornhuskers.
watched that game, the NCAA tournament, they were the loudest crowd of anyone that I saw the entire tournament. Yeah.
And they were in our hotel.
Win a lot more to
Well, you guys the architects finally got some competition. That's what it sounded like to me. All right. So I think we're ready for grant guidelines. Nothing real major there. Just there was one more edit that was requested, for which I provided in the in your grant guidelines. Let me just give you that right quick. Previously, the board, you indicated interest in FE reimbursement for professors. You probably, that just jogging your memory, and further requested that the list of eligible schools be updated. And so at the last meeting, it was further requested that language regarding travel be borrowed from the contract included as well. So you'll see both of those edits on page 2, where we added professors there highlighted for FE. And then, of course, we added the list of schools. I didn't include, that's on the first page, but the substance stuff here, and then this language regarding student travel as well. And I just took that straight from the regs, rules, the contract, stripped it straight from there. But it's now included part of the guidelines.
I appreciate you doing that, Glenn. And I'd make a motion that we approve as amended.
Just before we vote, there's one other place where
Yes,
the
sir.
professor's language needs to go.
Okay.
In the very first paragraph of the document, second sentence, at the very end of that sentence, it says, the
Yeah.
examination fees for students and professors
Yep.
should be added there.
Would you take that friendly amendment there, Heathcote?
Without equivocation.
All right, thank you.
And I'll
So
second that.
We got a second then from Blair Parker and then
Yeah.
Chair.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. And then before we deep dive in the legal reports, some of us have been sitting at this chair for a couple hours. Can we just take a 5-minute break and get a little refreshment? That'd be great. All right, so so Chair, we'll just recess for, if that's okay with you, about 5 minutes. and
Yes.
Come right back. All right, thank you. We'll get going here in a second. It looks like we have some semblance of quorum here.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like to call the meeting back to order.
all right, this meeting is called back to order. Looks like we are ready for the legal case report then.
Good morning. Okay, so I am going to just start off, and then like I mentioned, I had a conversation with Frank, and I'm gonna sort of summarize each of the cases, but obviously all the information is still here on the legal report in front of you if you have any questions. So case number 1, case number 202-503-7710. This is a professional engineer complaint and was reviewed by Eddie Jett. In summary, the respondent went about 26 months from May 2023 to July 2025 with an expired A&E engineer registration. They said it was because they did not receive the mail notice because they had an address change. Respondent worked on a project that consisted of 3 buildings with a total of 18 units. They did self-report. The recommendation was a $4,000 civil penalty related to the violation of unlicensed practice. And the respondent is to take and pass the laws and rules exam. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes. This one's looking a little bit of feedback to maintain consistency with the penalty. There's one red flag in this one. The engineer performed the structural, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical services all. So that was a little red flag. There was no complaint based on that, but it stuck out with me. So went through iterations of how do you apply the logic? Do you count the sheets? We did not get the set of plans. We didn't, I guess we could request those. So we don't know the number of sheets. So a couple of different ways. One, you could go the maximum of $1,000 per discipline. So that's $4,000, or we could treat the single project 3 buildings. You could go that $1,000 per discipline. That could be up to 12,000. I don't know. There's a little bit of logic here that I'd like some feedback from the board on.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Is there some discussion or do we have a motion?
I'll move to accept the recommendation, and I think the way you've clarified how you're doing that you're trying to stay consistent with it. We could have looked at it a different way, but that was a way to be consistent with it. So anyway.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, case number 2, complaint number 202-504-2151. This is also a professional engineer complaint reviewed by James Collin. In summary, the respondent went about also went about 26 months. Also from May 23 to July 2025 with an expired registration, and also said it was because they did not receive the mail notice. This respondent, you'll note, so the recommendation for this one was $1,000 civil penalty. You'll notice the respondent is retired and did not prepare any plans during the time that his license was expired.
And I'll offer a little bit of clarification on the $1,000 recommendation on the fine is that this respondent, though he did prepare plans, has been working in an advisory role with some municipalities. And so I felt like there should be some penalty associated with it for representing himself as a professional engineer during that time frame, even though he wasn't preparing any plans.
All right, thanks, James. We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, case number 3, complaint number 202-505-0621. This was a professional architect complaint and was reviewed by Rick Thompson. In summary, the complaint alleges that a licensed architect stamped drawings related to plumbing and electrical engineering work. The architect said these drawings were done by third parties who were licensed engineers, and the approved final drawings the approved final drawings still had the architect's stamp on the engineering work. The recommendation is $15,750 civil penalty, which was the $750 for the 5 plumbing drawings and the 16 mechanical drawings stamped by respondent. And then respondent must take and pass the laws and rules exam.
Thank you. Rick, do you have any comment?
I'll just give a little clarity to that. After reading the full report and then the complaint, this architect obviously stamped these drawings out of convenience, and he stamped drawings that he did not prepare. And there's a few more issues in here that I could have dug up and find him for. And I realize this is a large amount, but this is totally unacceptable. And if anyone in the engineering field would like to question that, let me know. So, but no, I feel like this penalty is appropriate. So it was a really bad idea.
Second that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Rick. We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Eddie, you've got your thing up. Okay. If no discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. This is case number 4, complaint number 202-500-7011. This is a professional engineering complaint. So a licensed engineer in Wyoming was disciplined for not ensuring that his business had the proper entity license. He self-reported and is now in good standing with Wyoming. This was reviewed by James Collins. And then the recommendation was a letter of warning related to the complaint. While a complaint is administratively open against the respondent and the business entity relating to the advertisement of engineering services without proper licensure. I missed something. Hold on. Yeah.
Yeah, if I can
Right.
help
Yeah.
it.
Why don't you add to that?
Yeah, I
So
can
I
help
think I
there.
missed-
The reason for the opening the new complaint is when looking into this person's website, in their website, they clearly state all the states that they are provide engineering services in, and Tennessee is one of those states, but they are not registered as a firm to practice in Tennessee. So that's why the new complaint is being opened.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
I just have a question. Did they indicate that they were licensed or they had previously worked in the state? Because there's a difference when I have responded to something that work previously done.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So the individual is licensed in the state of Tennessee. On their website, their firm advertises, they have a list that said, here's all the states that we provide engineering services in. And there's 40-something states in that list, and Tennessee is one of those states. But that firm is not licensed, is not registered in the state.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Case number 5, complaint number 202-503-0111. This is a professional engineering complaint, and the complaint was referred to us from the Board of Land Surveyors. A licensed engineer was holding themselves out as a land surveyor in the state. They contacted the complainant, who is a licensed land surveyor, and offered to send them leads for work. Further research showed the respondent had unreported discipline, including revocation from another state in both 2024 and 2025. And the respondent did not reply to this complaint. This was reviewed by board member Eddie Jett. The recommendation was revocation.
Okay, we have the recommendation. Eddie, do you have any comments?
I can go through a quick timeline. I don't know if you mentioned this one. We're revoking a license that has not been renewed, right? Is this the Alabama? This is the.
Yes, this
Okay.
expired in 2025.
Yeah, this license expired in 2025, but there was activity slightly before that. So just a quick summary timeline events. In 2012, this person had a complaint against him for a similar instance, misrepresentation, and that was in Alabama, and they were they were disciplined. Then in 2023, there's a similar complaint in Ohio, and this license was revoked. Then in 2024, North Carolina found out about it, and it was so serious, it was just quick. They said, you're done. We're revoking your license. So then in 2025, Alabama suspended, disciplined for not reporting Ohio.
Mhm.
My question was, they probably didn't know that North Carolina revoked. And so this individual is not applying for is not applying for renewal or anything. But I recommended that we just go ahead and revoke the license regardless of the status, just because of the behavior is pretty.
Right. Okay. We have the recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Need a second.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? There being none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Okay. Case number 6, this is complaint number 202-503-5051. This is professional engineering complaint. And this was reviewed by Mr. Heathcote. Okay. So the complainant is a code department here in Tennessee, and they allege that the respondent submitted an incomplete engineer letter that didn't address several structural codes issues. Despite the complainant, so the code department issuing a stop work order until corrective action plan was submitted by respondent and approved by complainant, the construction continued. The respondent claims the issue is with workers not following the plan submitted. and that they are working with the code department to correct the issues. But council did find that the respondent violated rules requiring focusing on health, safety, and welfare, not reporting a violation by construction workers to codes, or adhering to state, local, and federal statutes. And so the recommendation was going to be, so 505, so in total, $2,000.
Okay, we have a recommendation, and Alton, you reviewed this. Do you have any comments? Short comment?
Yeah, this is a pretty egregious, just
Sorry.
disregard for the codes. It was obvious. And the data and information, but I will say too, there were a number of different codes officials that provided input into this, all of them in unanimous agreement. And I agree too, based on the information they provided, this was a level of bad.
Okay.
I meant to say, by the way, it's a $2,000 total civil penalty, and also they must take and pass the laws and rules exam.
Right.
I do have one question. If you remember, I had a follow-up. There was a complaint filed against this registrant previously that I think may still be, I don't know if it's pending or whatever. Were you able to go back and find that and determine whether or not that was finalized?
That has not been finalized. My suggestion to the attorneys involved is that we would attempt to combine these into either one hearing or one consent order agreement and finish both of them. But that other one has not yet been finalized.
Okay, because the previous recommendation was more severe than this one.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Okay, I believe we're on case number 7, complaint number 202-506-3411. This was an unlicensed activity, but professional engineering, and this was reviewed by James Collins. This was another unlicensed activity through the website Upwork. The complainant thought the respondent was licensed, but once they realized they were not licensed, they reported the engineer to Upwork, who then removed that profile from their website. Unfortunately, we did send out an investigation and they were unable to locate the unlicensed respondent. So at this time, we're recommending close.
Okay, we have a recommendation to close.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Real quickly, this is not the first time that we've had an issue with this particular entity, Upworks. And we continue to get this over and over and over again, and we're continually kind of told, well, there's not really anything we can do about it. But for goodness sakes, I don't know if this is the 3rd or 4th or 5th time that we've had this. Is there no path that we can take to try to create some barrier to them being able to continue to do this?
Well, so the problem, right, is going to be the jurisdiction. I think I would have a hard time arguing that we have jurisdiction over Upwork.
But if they're allowing people to use somebody else's registration to practice in the state that we do regulate, wouldn't that give us the right to take action?
The only action we can take against a person who is not registered with this board is for unlicensed activity. So we would have to make the argument that Upwork had engaged in unlicensed activity. It's not that I don't appreciate or understand the frustration. I struggle to find how I would craft that argument exactly. We do send out, we have a team of investigators here at the department. We do send out an investigation to try to find the unlicensed person, but they're not often people, I mean, they might be living in Tennessee. I have no idea, but they probably aren't, probably don't live here. We probably don't have we don't have their real name, their real address. We don't have any real information about them.
But we do kind of know where Upwork is, right? Or,
Mhm.
yeah, so, I mean, can we not issue something like a cease and desist?
I don't know if it'll help, but it may give you some, well, let me get Mr. Jet's comments first. Did you have something you wanted to add to it?
Just real quick, can the entity of the board file a complaint with the FTC or something, but just to be on record, saying that we've had issues with this organization and they're, and sought,
I don't know that I have the best answer off the top of my head about that, but I can explore that. Yeah. We can always refer complaints. So I guess we could refer a complaint like.
Yeah, this is a tough one because you're touching on an issue that is not unique to Tennessee. All the MBAs, MBs, or I guess the MBs at was it CLARB or CIDQ, they were talking about this. Upwork, and they mentioned some other platforms is what we're talking about. And Laura mentioned that unlicensed activity, we can go after the individual using the platform, but you don't typically go after the platform. Like if I run an ad in the paper, I don't go after the paper, I go after the person running the ad that was fraudulent. You know what I mean? And so, and the problem though with the actors though, or these actors are sometimes international rings. It's like the Nigerian bank scam that used to happen. Remember that? Everyone was getting hammered by it for a while and then it went away. This is the same thing. Some of these people they're not even here. They're not even, they're overseas. And so, and then everyone there was talking about their AGs handling it, or maybe a coalition of states. The FBI is having problems wrapping their hand around it. So I don't see the AG in Alabama or Tennessee, snatching somebody that we don't even know exists. That's a cybercrime kind of an issue at that point, and so that's why these are, it's frustrating, but there's certain, I'm not saying they're outside the reach, but in some regard they are jurisdictionally or whatever.
What was
That's what
the
I thought maybe-
organization you said? Can you repeat?
just on record with the FTC or something, some organization that you can
So-
pile up complaints and they look at a platform and say, look, if you're going to run licensed
Right.
activity through your platform, you have to do these, we think you should do these additional measures to verify that information before you let it process through. But
So the
that's just an
option that any board has is always to refer complaints over to someone who they think has the proper jurisdiction. So I can explore whether or not we can refer these kind of complaints to the FTC or even to the AG. I will say in practice, if we're having a hard time tracking down a respondent than other people do, but their jurisdiction is different than ours and their resources might be different. I don't really know. So
Well, this goes back to the central component of these complaints is Upwork.
yeah.
So maybe that's the place to start.
So maybe
So
we'll
that
start,
that's our
maybe,
intermediate.
maybe we can look for the appropriate, I guess I'm just not sure if it would be the Tennessee Attorney General or the FTC, but maybe we can look for the appropriate place to start referring these complaints out, and that can sort of be our go-to when we get a complaint related to this.
Yeah, one suggestion I would have is to make the person that's the user put it their responsibility to verify that this person is legitimate or not. I mean, if you've got somebody sealing your drawings, and if I, use the services of Upwork and had them do some drawings with me and stamp them, then I think I would take the responsibility to make sure they're legitimate.
Well, in
I mean,
fairness,
can't you put
this
it on the
complaint, like
user?
most of the complaints, the complainant is the person who was like seeking the services.
And
then once they
it wouldn't be a
realize that they have
professional
been-
service.
What?
The entity making the complaint would not necessarily be a professional service, and no one understand the
No,
laws
this
and rules
is- this
associated with
was As a
licensure.
consumer,
Yeah.
and then once they realize that the person that
Right.
they've been communicating with is not actually properly registered, they're usually the ones that send us the complaint.
But-
Either
well,
that
this-
or the person whose identity has been used who was like, that's not me.
Yeah.
But
But
I don't
Upworks,
know.
Upworks should be responsible for that, ensuring that.
Should be.
How would we amend the recommendation then so that you could take the additional action that you need to take to investigate?
So we'll just recommend, the recommendation can stay as close and refer to the proper entity.
Would you accept that amendment?
Absolutely.
So moved.
Okay.
Okay, you made the motion to amend. Who was the second?
I don't think it's been seconded.
Oh, we have a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Okay. Case number 8, complaint number 202502941. This was also an unlicensed complaint against an architectural firm, and this was reviewed by Rick Thompson. Respondent is not a licensed architect, but they did operate under the name Architectural Services. Complaint alleges that the respondent designed several flawed homes that were over 2 floors in height, and that all happened about a decade ago. Council recommended a cease and desist letter and $1,000 civil penalty. I do believe they have changed their name on their website now, but they were holding themselves out as name of respondent architectural services. And then, designing buildings that were more than 2 stories in height.
Okay, we have the case and we have a recommendation. Rick, do you have any comments? Do you agree with the recommendation? Okay.
Yeah, that's the recommendation. I would like to
All right.
make that formal.
Okay, do we have a motion? We have a motion and we need a second. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Case number 9, complaint number 20250176601. This was also an unlicensed activity case against an engineering firm, reviewed by Eddie Jett. Respondent owns 2 companies, an electrical engineering firm, which is registered with the board, and another company, which is not registered with the board. The respondent advertises electrical engineering services under the company name that is not registered with the board, but uses the registered company for the electrical engineering work. The recommendation was to send a cease and desist letter for advertising services for the electrical engineering through the unregistered company and a $1,000 civil penalty.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, case number 10, this is complaint 20250375511. And this was reviewed by Alton Heathcote. Respondent reapplied for a license after their license had expired. They noted on their reapplication that they had worked on the expired license on, so we sent out an investigator. They spoke with the respondent who stated that they marked that in error and they did not live or work in Tennessee while the license was expired. There was no other evidence to suggest the respondent worked on this expired license. The recommendation was to close.
Okay, you see the recommendation. Do we have a motion? We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Right.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you guys. I'm going to turn it over to Joey now.
All right. Complaint number 11 is case number 2024-067-961. This one was reviewed by Dr. Ash, and this is regarding an engineering intern. So this complaint was filed by a homeowner who was upset with the building evaluation and reserve fund study that was procured by their HOA. The HOA is happy with that report and did not have any concerns. And so this really just appears to be a dispute between that homeowner and the results of this report, which were done within compliance of all the rules. And so the recommendation here is to just close this complaint.
Okay, everybody sees the recommendation. Do we have a motion? We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, complaint number 12 is case number 2025-031-801. This one was reviewed by Mr. Heathcote, and this is a complaint against an engineer. In this instance, there was an independent insurance adjuster hired by a homeowner, and that independent adjuster is the one who opened this complaint against the respondent. The respondent went to the property and conducted an inspection, and the independent adjuster was there for part of that inspection. The homeowner and the independent adjuster had concerns about the report completed by the engineer, and there was subsequently another report prepared by an independent engineer, and the reports were reviewed by Mr. Heathcote and myself. And upon review of those reports, it became apparent that there was not sufficient due diligence exercised in the preparation, of that first report by the respondent. And therefore, we were finding violations of the proper conduct of practice, service in areas of competence and professional conduct, service in areas of competence, and lastly, again, professional conduct. And so we are recommending a civil penalty of $2,000 and requiring the law and rules examination.
Okay, first of all, thanks for condensing that complaint.
Yeah.
You
want to see the complaint?
No.
Oh, Lord.
Anyway, you see the recommendation. Do we have a motion? We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, complaint number 13, and there is an error on the report. The first line of this one says it's related to complaints number 17 and 18. These were renumbered, and so that's just a typo there. But this 13 and number 14 are related complaints. Both of these were filed by the same respondent who is a former employee. So this number 13 is against the engineer, and then number 14 is against the firm. This individual made very broad claims of unethical and inappropriate behavior, but really didn't have any factual circumstances included. And the projects that were described as being deficient were located in Alabama, Kentucky, Virginia, and Texas. There was not a project in Tennessee that he had a complaint about. And further, to the board's knowledge, no complaints have been opened in those other states. And the respondent gave a very detailed response to this complaint, included reports related to those out-of-state projects justifying their position, and they dispute the allegations of unethical or inappropriate behavior. And this one and the complaint against the firm were both reviewed by Mr. Carter. And our recommendation was to close this complaint as well as the other complaint, as this appears to be, a disgruntled employee who is filing complaints against their former employer, and we did not find any actionable conduct.
Okay, so everyone sees the recommendation is to close, and I'm not going to take these together, but for the number 13, do we have a motion? Do we have a motion and a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
All right, and case number 14, again related to that prior case, is number 2025-033-201. This complaint was a little more specific just to the project located in Alabama. But again, the comments from the prior complaint all apply the same. We weren't able to find any violations. And so therefore the recommendation here is to close as well.
Okay, we've heard the recommendation. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve recommendation, but one question, do we let the other board know anything, as the Alabama board, anything, or is that necessary, or just I know we set the flag it, but.
We don't currently have any plans to send them anything, and I would maybe look to Mr. Carter and see if, I don't think there was anything really that we would
That
even
egregious.
investigate if the project were located in Tennessee.
My guess is this complainant has already done that.
Okay.
I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's a former employee and it's
Okay.
bad apples. So he's probably complained to every board that's listed here, would be my guess.
Okay. Well, my motion still stands as it is, so.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
I have a quick question. Is the complainant is a registered professional in Tennessee?
I believe he's unlicensed. I don't think he
He's
has
an
a
unlicensed
professional
individual.
license.
What I'm wondering is that, this could turn into something we could get hundreds of these every month. And so how do you stop that or prevent that or slow that type of thing down? But there's potentially no way to do that. I'm just curious.
Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, complaint number 15 is case number 2026-000561. This was reviewed by Mr. Collins. This complaint was opened administratively following the respondent's reapplication for its engineering license. In that application, the respondent self-identified unlicensed practice while the license was expired. We did contact the respondent and they cooperated with the board by providing detail that they had stamped 2 projects, a total of 6 plan sheets during that time. And they also provided detail on the steps they've taken to make sure that their registration does not expire in the future. The recommendation here is to assess a $70 late fee for the registration, as well as a $2,000 civil penalty for the stamping of the 2 projects, which is the 6 pages. And then also to require the respondent to take and pass the law and rules exam.
Okay, everybody's heard the recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is any other discussion? If not-
Question, sorry.
Okay.
On this one, they actually identify 6 plan sheets. Two projects, 6 sheets each, or for 2 combined, 3 per project
Yeah, it was unclear, but I think it was a total of 6 sheets
for both projects.
total.
Okay.
Yeah. And since it was kind of unclear, my thought was, let's go with $1,000 per project instead of trying to do it on a per sheet basis. This person was very cooperative when they found out what had happened, and like Joe said, they provided a detailed, this is what we're doing to fix this so it doesn't ever happen again in our firm kind of thing. So
Okay. I was just curious because of the previous one, we didn't
Right.
know how many sheets. Just,
Right.
yeah, it sounds fair. Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Right. Number 16 on the legal report is case number 2026-011511. This was against a registered interior designer. This complaint was also opened administratively. This respondent had reapplied, and in that application specified that they had been using registered interior designer since their registration had expired. When we looked into that, that was a period from October 2021 through February of 2026. And due to that length of time, we recommend that we impose a civil penalty of $500 for the use of registered interior designer without registration.
Okay, everyone's seen the recommendation. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all. Ariel's up next.
Hello. So number 18 is next. It is case number 2025073441. This complaint was for unlicensed activity. Essentially, the complaint stated that the respondent developed multiple structures that were over 2 stories. The respondent admitted that they prepared drawings for a 3-story residential structure at the request of the builder. They also stated that because they didn't use the term architect, that they weren't in violation, and that eventually that the plans were signed off by a licensed architect and or engineer, disagreeing with all of the things that they had asserted as far as exemptions go. The building was over 3 stories, and they submitted 18 pages of the design plans for this. So the recommendation was to assess a $250 civil penalty per page, or $4,500 in total, and it should be added for the violation of unlicensed activity under Tennessee Code Annotated 62. It's like 105, sorry. to 105, I believe is what it is supposed to be. Yes.
Yes, everyone's seen the recommendation. It also includes for the respondent to take and pass the laws and rules exam.
Yes.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve the recommendation.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed?
The next one is number 19. It's complaint number 2025003931. In this situation, the complaint was filed by a building official who oversaw city construction and building regulations. The respondent was filing to get approval for a framing job that they had submitted to that official and required approval as an engineer. The complaint included documents entitled structural report and multiple pictures of the framing job. And essentially the complaint was concerned for the safety of the public. Therefore, the recommendation was to assess a $500 civil penalty for proper conduct. It's the Tennessee regulation, rules and regulations 0120-02-.021, and then $1,000 civil penalty, same title, but subsection B, and require the respondent to take and pass the laws and rules exam. This was against the engineering firm. They essentially use it interchangeably. The engineer is licensed. The firm has not been renewed in a while. but the engineer seems to be in compliance.
Okay, everyone's heard the recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next two are the representations, representing the things from the related cases. We may or may not remember them from last legal report. It was the 3 cases that were interconnected. This is 2 of them that I'm presenting again. Sorry, it's very distracting. Okay. So loud. For this first one, just as a brief overview, they're interconnected and it stemmed from a construction project from the complainant's home, and each respondent was responsible for a different portion of the construction. And this one, the respondent was supposed to be responsible for supervising the engineering firm that happened to be unlicensed, and essentially the foundation was faulty. And they also had a significant delay in getting some paperwork back regarding approval. After review, the new recommendation is going to be to issue a letter of warning to ensure due diligence when interacting with professionals they supervise. And that's mainly just because it would be kind of hard to prove that what they did or did not know at the time.
Okay, we have the recommendation. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The last one that I have is number 21. It's number 2025029641, related to the previous one that we just talked about. This individual was the contractor for the project, and they essentially had an ongoing professional relationship with the builder. So they were doing like inspections for the complainant and the contractor, and it's still pretty much on their payroll, but without fully discussing that relationship with a complainant before they signed the contract with them. So the recommendation was to assess a $250 civil penalty for failing to disclose a potential conflict of interest, and to also require them to take and pass a laws and rules exam.
Okay, we have a new recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I said this at the last meeting, and I find it discerning that we find somebody $250. I mean, it's very clear in the rules and laws that you have to, if you have a conflict, you're supposed to let them know. So this at a bare minimum would be $500, maybe more. So I'm trying to encourage everyone to stay with our guidelines, and the 250 is not in there. It's 500 and 1,000, and then depending on what circumstances are. So when I see 250, it's 250 is nothing. You know, if I can get by with all these things for $250, well, why not? So that's my personal opinion. So I'd like just sharing it with the board. I just don't feel like that's a good number.
One thing I'd say in this case is the complainant hired this same person again at a later date for something else, even though they are complaining there was a potential conflict of interest. So if they were that concerned about a conflict of interest, why would you hire the person again?
It was fairly there. It's not a clear
If you can speak into the mic there, Eddie, if somebody just want to catch your comments.
Is there any discussion?
So
Thank
in
you,
this
Mr. Chair.
case, do we? No, I made I made my point. A letter of caution is even
Yeah.
worse than $250 for this agreement. This is,
This one, I agree with Jason. It was hard to identify the things that ran through my mind, the clearness of conflict of interest. I mean, our guidelines say if you get paid by more than one, if you get paid by more than one person on the same project, that's clear. You're supposed to disclose it to everyone. This one involved repeat business. I mean, we would all have to do that. We would all have to disclose that in some form. And so that was hard to find that line. I guess that's why the 250 was treading. I understand your point. Make it.
if I have a potential conflict like this, I always inform them. So that's my opinion. So, and I won't support the motion, just so you know.
Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just a clarification. Are you saying that the 250, what I heard is 250 is nowhere found in the, guidebook, in it? Minimum is 500. So to be consistent with Jason and Eddie, since you guys want to revisit the case, can you modify your recommendation? Just to be consistent. Just a question. Thank you.
That would require the person that made the motion to make that modification.
Withdraw my motion. Hey, can we draw my motion?
Or you could change it.
I always want to make the motion,
I
and
know.
then Melanie is one the second.
We can amend to
You
500.
can amend your motion.
Okay, so the amended motion is that $500.
Just need a second then on that regard, since he's amended the motion.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion. We have an amendment to the motion and a second. So right now, the motion is to assess a civil penalty of $500 for failing to disclose a potential conflict of interest in violations of Tennessee, so-and-so, and require the respondent to take and pass the laws and rules exam. Okay. Is there any other discussion? All in favor of the amended motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I am so proud of y'all. I mean, I cannot believe that is incredible. Oh, man.
Don't brace your kids.
I have a quick point of clarification on case number 17, and I've been kind of looking at this and just wanted to get everyone's opinion. This is the one where it was a residential structure. I think it was your case, Brian, where it was 3 stories, but the exemptions in the law say that a single family dwelling has the same exemption as a farmhouse or anything like that. And I keep wondering if that could be challenged on this, on the other side of it. It says, although the structure was less than 5,000 square feet in total area, the structure was 3 stories. Therefore, the exemption doesn't apply. Am I reading that wrong in the exemptions? Because the exemptions, I guess my question, was this a single family dwelling?
The way I understood it, it's okay to talk about this after the fact, right? because of the limitations, there is like a limit that they go over. So at least my understanding was that it went over that limit. So they weren't permitted to, there should have been a registered architect at that point. Yeah, I don't remember all, to get back to the exact square footage and everything anymore, but just the way we were looking at it, that was the case. There is a line that we draw in but that's kind of it. Yeah.
It was on the line essentially. So the exemption for the single family residence.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was closer. The plan that was submitted only looked like it was for one building. The complaint was saying that it was for multiple structures like that are designed the exact same way. So kind of taking that into consideration, looking like a part of a multi-structure.
But
thing.
each structure being a single family dwelling.
Like part of a development, I believe yeah.
That was my question, and
it was under the 5,000 square feet.
But the 3 stories kicked it in.
Yeah, the 3 stories is what essentially led to the recommendation of a civil penalty.
But that was my question. Maybe go back and read it. But the 3 story, this was not above 3 stories, right?
No, it was 3 stories.
3 stories. That's the maximum height for the IRC before throwing it into the IBC. But our exemptions
It's
say
2 stories.
not more than 3 stories.
Not more than 2 stories.
No more than 2 stories, but less than 5,000 square feet. And those 2 line items are tied together. But then the exemptions bypass that. But anyway,
IQ construction, I was like, no, okay, the guys. Yeah, no. No, and if you had a point of like legal clarification, like a finer point, then you guys can send that out to us and then we can, and then if we find something that, that's, or if we uncover something that we think may have some application, then we could bring that before the whole board and then, bring all that to bear.
I think that's worth running up the flagpole for legal to look at that.
Yeah.
Because it says, it's got the story max and the 5,000 max, but then right under that, it said it excludes, farmhouses and things like that, which obviously exceed 5,000 square feet. And then the IRC limit, the residential code, keeps the structure 3 stories or less if it's single family dwelling within that code, in that code. So I think it's worth running it up to see if there's a conflict.
And if you could just put that in the form of an email, because then that's sort of like a ticket for us. It's like when I send something up to IT, I do what's a ticket and it helps them with their billable hour and all that, but just something really quick, just a little 2-liner or whatever. And then I can track it.
Yeah, I'll do that.
That'd be perfect. All right.
Philip did you have something?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Frank, Mr. Chairman, the only thing just from the electrical standpoint, even though structurally you might think that you can exempt, but when you got such a high load, most likely those loading is required some kind of CT metering. So a lot of AHJ will require you actually get a design professional to design your electrical system. So that little blanket say, well, because you got high structurally, you might be exempted, but electrically speaking, you may not be. So just gotta be sure there's not just because you fulfill one criteria, everything is included. No, a lot of your AHJ will actually require. And now my suspicion is that with such a 3,900 square foot with 3-story, I suspect that some places may even have an elevator in there too. So it's not just a simple electrical panel, is what I'm saying. Thank you.
Just as a follow-up on that, I know of several county jurisdictions in Tennessee that split out, and they're doing exactly, which is why I think there's a little bit of a crack there. Some jurisdictions will say, oh, there's a residence and it's 8,000 square feet. So I'm only going to require structural drawings because the architectural, or because it's an exempt structure, but I'm going to require structural drawings anyway. And my theory is that there's an interpretation there that we could fix and maybe line up
That's good.
the lower jurisdiction so they have a clear understanding. Otherwise, they're doing exactly what Philip was saying. They're saying, no, and they have a right to do that. The local jurisdiction can ask for it, and it becomes part of a requirement.
Yeah, I was thinking strictly structural, so I didn't even think about, the other disciplines. So yeah, thank you for adding that finer point. All right, any other comments, questions? I'm sorry. Oh, goodness. All right. It is.
I guess
Well, it
committee
looks like,
reports.
looks like we are, I checked with legal, they didn't have anything else on the legal report. I think we're ready then for applicant review. I did print one out because it was sort of one of those late arrivals that came in kind of right underneath the, right underneath the hour or that last minute, right underneath the wire. So, it's, and I'll just run over the summary. Typically, we try to put this in front of you, and then the supports are right behind it. There's 2 consent orders. You got one from Ohio, one from Louisiana. And the engineers typically will get these in their committees. And so the rest of the board, if you're wondering, what in the world am I doing with an engineer in front of me, applicant review? It's just because we didn't have enough time in that committee, and it was already posted on the website. So I said, if we had time, and I was actually thinking a big fat if, because, obviously, we had quite a legal report, but you guys, manhandled that thing. And so looks like we do have time to cover this. And so as a result, we're going to get into it a little bit here. But so Mr. Vinny submitted a reapplication for his license. The license has expired since 2008. So this is a reapplication. We're not looking at the qualifications. This, I would suspect being a reapplication, they're probably qualified, that they've, it would be CE or active license or somewhere else and some references. So we're not looking at the merits of an application necessarily. What we're looking at is prior disciplinary action. And so we have 2 disciplinary actions before us, one from Ohio in 12/24, and then Louisiana, which is related to the Ohio. And that was 9/25. And so as you can see, the violations there under Ohio was, I'll just quickly read those. In aiding and abetting the illegal practice of engineering by consulting construction engineering. 2, affixed his professional engineer seal and signature to products without having personal professional knowledge and direct supervisory control responsibility in the product of the work product. 3, sealed work outside of his area of competence. And 4, offered to provide engineering services in Ohio through another firm, and that did not process or possess, rather, that's a typo, a COA, certificate of authorization. The conclusion was Ohio revoked that license. Mitigating factors, none, it's still in revoked status. And he did disclose that revocation at the time of the reapplication. And then Louisiana is related to that. Did not, let me see. Did not disclose that, and so they were fined in Louisiana, but it was related to Ohio. But they do maintain an active license in Louisiana. They didn't elect to revoke that person, so that kind of is a wrinkle there, for you guys to kick around and discuss. So, and then you have both consent orders with the summaries and the conclusions. I gave you the brief summary of both of those, but you have those consent orders behind you, Ohio and the sending order, and the Louisiana. And this, just so you know, this one, there would be no complaint necessarily flowing out of this because they weren't licensed. And so this is a reapplication. We're just trying to decide, do they meet the character qualifications to even apply?
I'll break the ice here. This license in Ohio continues to remain revoked. That activity was not even 2 years ago when that happened. According to our statute, we have the ability to deny his registration because he has had his license revoked in another state. So based off of that and what appears to be a pretty egregious activity in Ohio, my recommendation would be that we not allow his application to proceed.
James, I concur with your conclusion. I read the same way under our law rules and the DCS 62308 item F is clearly that we have the right not to let him reapply. Thank you.
Could we, I guess, amend that, inform him that if his license in Ohio is reinstated, we would likely allow him to, yeah, we'd reconsider our position.
Do we need a motion to that effect?
Yes, yes, we do.
So moved.
Whoa. Listen, yeah. We're gonna need to state the motion, I believe, a little more clearly than that. Unless
You wanna-
James wants to.
You
I'm not
made the
sure I
amendment, yeah.
100% agree with what you're saying.
I would move that we inform the applicant that at this point, we would not allow him to reapply, but we would reconsider at such time that he regains his license in Ohio.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be an automatic approval, so that there's a safety net there. But what would happen is just for the rest of the board is if it passed, if this motion passed, we would bring it back to the committee. Should he come back and say, look, I'm good at Ohio, I've got an active license. But then, then they would deliberate and they may still say, no, we're not interested, but, or we need more information on this finer point or that finer point. But, what we're saying is that we don't even want to have that conversation until you've at least your offended state you've reconciled with your offending state.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there other discussion? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries.
And I thought I missed that last, the motion, or the second rather. I was like at a livestock auction. It happened really fast. And so who was the second on that one?
It was the Honorable Richard Thompson.
All right, thank you. All right. It looks like then we are ready for, committee reports. So we only had two committees. We had engineer and we had bylaws, and James was responsible for both. So he gets to carry us through.
I'll make this quick. The engineering committee met. We had a great presentation from Jennifer Lloyd from TDOT about the Open Roads Design and Connect program. And Jason, thank you for setting that up. That was very informative. A lot of good discussion there, particularly about how we will handle signing and sealing of the models and all those kinds of things as that goes forward. So it was very good. We also did have under our new business a discussion about trying ways to be more efficient with the way that we handle some of our legal reviews and that sort of thing. So that was just some discussion we had. The bylaws committee met. We talked about several different items in the current bylaws, and we're still in the process of making some revisions to that. And that committee will continue working. We'll report again at the next meeting.
Yes, sir. All right, good. A lot of good work. And you guys did a fantastic, and you guys always do that yeoman's work on the front end. Everyone's prepared. You read and you bring good questions. And so I appreciate that. And that's what helps this move along, so thank you for doing that. And thank you for your work. And then again, we'll have that committee bylaws and we'll go over that again. All right. So new business then, is there any new business? All right, then I'll pause for public comments. I don't think we have anyone signed in, but I'll just check in case someone snuck in behind. Alex, do we have anyone online? All right, if there is anyone online, this would be your last opportunity to sign in and let us know and indicate that you'd like to make a comment. All right, seeing none then, public comments period is passed. Chair, it's your prerogative if you would like to adjourn.
I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. That's all it takes. We got the motion. We're adjourned.
Yeah, we adjourned. All right. Thank you.